Hello everyone, welcome to What If Deku was doing internship with Mirko and fell in love with her movie. Before we start, please go support cismomusic for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Deku is a male. After the sports festival event ends, Class 1A will have to do their internships at the hero agency. Our protagonist Izuku Midoriya will have to spend his internship with a rabbit who, according to rumors, is a bit temperamental in terms of her character. But little by little they will both begin to feel attraction for each other. Come and hear this story of action, comedy and romance. Chapter 1: An Unexpected Request. We can see a green-haired man who is suspended in the air, about to crash into a car. Izuku, okay, do you see the green-haired guy who is about to hit a car? Who happens to be behind him? Well, that's me. And let me tell you, this isn't going to be pretty at all. I still don't understand how everything ended this way. Anyway, so that we can get more into context, we have to go back in time a few weeks. 3 weeks ago. Aizawa, well, let me tell you that the applications for your internships have already arrived. Todoroki and Bakugo received several applications for their performance at the sports festival. Those who do not have applications will be given a list so they can choose which hero they will do their internship with. Due to some changes that were made recently, it will no longer be a 2-week internship, it is now a full month. Director Nizu believes that it will be more convenient if they can have a longer period of time, that way they can learn more with their respective hero. I will now give you the applications, it will be up to you whether you accept or not. Aizawa proceeded to hand out the applications to his students. A certain green-haired boy was nervous to know if anyone wanted him for the internship. His nervousness increased as he saw his teacher heading towards him. Aizawa, Midoriya, you didn't receive any requests. I think you scared them by breaking your bones in your fight against Todoroki. Izuku would be speechless as if he was in shock. But then a certain rodent entered the classroom and greeted the students kindly. The boys respectfully greeted their director. Aizawa, Director Nizu, what can I do for you? Nizu, sorry for interrupting your class, Aizawa. It's just that we received a last-minute request. And I found it very funny. At first I couldn't believe this request, but I think it will be a good thing. Aizawa, I see. And who is the request for? Nizu, it's for young Midoriya. At those words Izuku was able to come back to himself. A small light of hope was present on that simple white sheet that his director had. The rodent handed the request to Izuku saying, I wish you the best, young man, as it will be a hard road if you accept. He laughed as if it were a joke. After saying that, the rodent said goodbye and left the room. Aizawa continued with his thing. Izuku had been somewhat confused by the director's words. He was excited to know that Hiro wanted him in his agency. His eyes began to read the application in detail. Little by little his smile slowly faded. A certain black woman noticed this and became curious to know who it was. Izuku in his thoughts would say, of all the heroes, why did she have to touch me? The heroine Mirko is known for having a short-tempered character. Damn, what should I do? If I reject it, I will have the option to see if another agency wants to take me, but it would be selfish of me not to accept. After all, she took the time to choose me. It's not like he's going to die on his internship, is it? The green-haired man had endless thoughts and doubts in his head. Uraraka and the rest of his classmates noticed his nervous attitude. Although he was always like that, this time it was more than usual. Aizawa, well, if you decide to accept the request, the agency will be informed immediately, and you will be able to start your internship tomorrow. Well, now you decide. I'll sleep for a while. He got into his sleeping bag while his students concentrated on their own thing. Momo, Mina, Uraraka and Tsuyu approached the green-haired boy to ask him which hero had sent him the request. Mina, Midoriya, who sent you the request? She asked with a big smile. But the green-haired man didn't answer him. He was lost in his thoughts while muttering several words. The girls would have a drop of sweat on their heads because that was something common for the green-haired boy. Momo touched his shoulder saying, Izuku-kun. This caught the attention of his friends because it was the first time they heard the brunette call him that way. Feeling Momo's voice and touch, The green-haired boy came to his senses, raising his gaze to meet the warm, black eyes of his partner. He blushed a lot and quite nervously replied, "Why, Yayarosa-san, what's wrong?" "Momo, well, we want to know which hero sent you the request." "Mina, I asked you but you were lost in your thoughts," she said while laughing a little. "Izuku, I'm so sorry Mina, well, it was my turn." The heroine Mirko. At these words the whole room fell silent. The girls were slow to react, saying, "What? Mina, does the heroine Mirko want you in her agency?" "Momo, this is something strange. It is known that she does not care about these things. She has never taken a student for an internship. But now he suddenly chose you. I bet he saw potential in you," he said with a big smile. "Bakugo, ha potential in Deku? Don't make me laugh. I bet the bunny just wants a bag of meat to hit, and who better than Deku? I doubt I can fight him without breaking my bones," he said while laughing out loud. "See you. Such kind words, Bakugo, you should give motivation classes, Jero." "Bakugo, yes, it's true, whatever the case is that Deku will suffer for a month with the rabbit." Izuku was even more nervous about whether to accept or not. "Momo, don't pay attention to Bakugo Izuku, this will be a good opportunity for you. You'll be able to try out Mirko-san's training. Who knows, maybe it will help you a lot." "Cheer up, Izuku," he said happily. Mina and the other girls began to cheer on the freckled boy who smiled because they undoubtedly gave him confidence. At the end of classes the boys were leaving the classroom. The last to leave were Momo and Izuku. Momo approached the green-haired boy saying, "See you, Izuku-kun, I wish you the best in your internship with Mirko-san. You have my full support." "Izuku, thank you, Momo-san." The brunette was about to leave but Izuku stopped her saying, "Before you leave, Momo, I wanted to give you this." He handed a notebook to Momo, who, somewhat confused, asked, "And this? What is it for?" "Izuku, well, you see, I was doing an analysis of your quirk and I wrote down some ideas that could help you improve its use, both for combat and for other things." Momo looked into Izuku's eyes and gave a slight smile saying, "Huh? Are you giving me this to get points with me?" "Gomen nasai, but I only see you as a friend." "Izuku, I never had those intentions with you," he said quite blushed. Momo just laughed a little saying, "Thanks for helping me, Izuku-kun." She held the notebook against her chest, showing a tender smile, making the green-haired boy blush. "Momo, see you, Izuku-kun." After saying that she left the place, leaving the green-haired man alone. "Izuku, I wonder why she always shows that side of her with me. Well, I have to go." The green-haired man grabbed his things and left the classroom. While walking through the halls he met his mentor All Might. "All Might, Shonen, I finally found you. I really want to talk to you." "Izuku, what's wrong, All Might?" "All Might, I heard that you already received the applications for the internships. Tell me, did you receive any?" "Izuku, well, to tell the truth, yes." "All Might, tell me, whose agency is it?" he asked while drinking some water from a bottle. "Izuku, well, it's Mirko-san's agency." At those words, All Might spat out all the water on Izuku's face, who had a drop of sweat on his head. "All Might, why you really mean that, Shonen?" Izuku, wiping away the water, replied, "Yeah." "All Might, I see, I'll tell Revolvery that he'll have a lot of work for a month." "Izuku, if you have RA." "Hey." All Might would take Izuku by the shoulders saying, "You have to survive, Shonen, I wish you the best." "Izuku, I don't know why but I felt offended by your words." "Well, I don't think Mirko is what the rumors say." "All Might, well, I couldn't tell you, I never had the opportunity to work with her, so I couldn't tell you what her attitude is like. According to what other heroes told me, she is somewhat aggressive." "Izuku, I see." "All Might, well, I think it will be a great way to enhance one for all, maybe you can learn something from it." "Izuku, you're right." After finishing talking, each one left. The green-haired boy would arrive at his room to take a refreshing shower and lie down on his bed thinking about how his day would be tomorrow, because in a way he was quite nervous about what awaited him. As he could, he managed to fall asleep and wake up very early the next day because Mirko's agency was a bit far from the UA. So it would take him about 35 minutes to walk according to his calculations. So the green-haired boy decided to leave the academy at 6 with the things he needed for his internship. The time he had to be at Mirko's agency was at 7 in the morning, so he would arrive with plenty of time, so when he left he began to walk at a leisurely pace. While looking at the address of Mirko's agency on her phone, the details of which had been sent to her email after accepting the internship with her. After 40 minutes he would arrive at the place. It had taken him 5 minutes longer than expected. The green-haired man saw that the rabbit's agency was a 5-story building. It was not big enough nor was it small. Izuku would be in front of the entrance door about to grab the handle. The green-haired man took a deep breath, saying, "Calm down, Izuku. It's not like you're going to die." Chapter 2: Cold Words for a Kind Smile. He gathered his courage and entered the building. His gaze met with a very nice reception room with a warm atmosphere. He could see that there was a desk in the room, next to a pretty secretary who was approximately 23 or 24 years old, with brown hair and beautiful light blue eyes. Izuku approached somewhat nervously, saying, "Gee, good morning, The secretary, seeing the green-haired man, looked at him somewhat confused and asked, "Good morning, how can I help you, boy?" Izuku, "Well, I'm a student at UA High School. My name is Izuku Midoriya and I'm here to do my internship with the professional hero Mirko-san." The secretary took a few seconds to react, saying, "What? Are you serious, boy?" she asked very excitedly. Izuku, "Oh yeah, really." The secretary showed a big smile upon hearing such words. She would take Izuku's hand, saying, "My name is Shia. Nice to meet you, Izuku. I hope we can get along. I am very happy to have you here. You are the first student to come to this agency. Miss Mirko will be very happy." She pulled him by the hand as she guided him up the stairs to the second floor, which was a gym and was precisely where a certain rabbit was. When they arrived, they both saw Rumi doing a split on the floor. Her elongation was perfect. "Shia, Rumi, look, this boy came to do his internship with you," he said very happily. Mirko looked up at them both and raised an eyebrow, saying, "So you finally arrived, boy." "Shia, huh? Did you know he was coming?" Mirko, "Oh yeah, didn't I tell you? I sent him the request for him to come with me." Shia, "Hey. Really?" Mirko, "Yes." The bunny stood up. Izuku was a little blushing because Mirko was wearing short red shorts and a black top on her chest, leaving her abdomen exposed. She undoubtedly looked very pretty in those clothes. It highlighted her dark skin. Mirko's crimson eyes fell on the green-haired boy as if she was somewhat annoyed at having him there. She said in a cold voice, "Listen to me, brat, the reason I sent you the request is because I lost a bet. To be honest, no one wanted to take you on because they saw how you broke your bones at the festival and, to be honest, no one wants to deal with a burden like that. So don't think that you're here because I'm interested in you and all that. You're only here because I lost a bet with Hawks and thanks to that I have to have you in my agency for a month." Izuku lowered his head at those words. She was right. If he kept breaking his bones like that he would only be a burden on the rest. Shia would have her gaze lowered. She approached Rumi and gave her a strong slap, surprising the rabbit. Shia looked up with some tears in her eyes, saying, "I was a fool to think you could change, Rumi. How can you say those things to Izuku after he took the trouble to come all the way here to do his internship? For you everything is a game, but not for him. He takes his studies seriously as a hero. If he's here it's because he wants to be better and learn from a professional like you. You know, sometimes rumors about you being a bad person tend to become true if you keep going like this." "Izuku, don't worry, Miss Shia. Miss Mirko is right. I can only break my bones. I'm just a burden to others, so." "Shia, don't say that. You are not a burden. The problem here is people like Mirko." She turned around, taking Izuku by the hand, leaving the second floor, leaving Rumi alone. The rabbit was still in her same place without saying a single word. Izuku and Shia walked down the stairs in silence. Shia had never let go of the green-haired man's hand. Upon reaching the first floor they stopped in one place. The green-haired man saw how the girl who had greeted him had tears falling from her eyes. Izuku, Mrs. Shia, I'm sorry you had to go through all this. I'll understand if you want to go to another agency, she said, forcing a smile. The green-haired boy smiled slightly, handing her a handkerchief so she could dry her tears. Shia saw that kind and sincere smile that the green-haired man gave her. She thanked the gesture by taking the handkerchief. Izuku, are you feeling better now? Shia, with a tender smile, replied. Yes, I feel much better now. Izuku, thanks for defending me, but because of me you got into a fight with Miss Mirko. Shia, this is not your fault, it's her fault. By the way, now that I see you better, I realize that you are the boy from the sports festival. I saw your battle with Endeavor's son and I think you were amazing. I don't know what others think, but in my eyes you fought very well. I could see the determination in your eyes. You have a very strong quirk. Izuku, somewhat embarrassed, would say. Gee, thanks, but I don't think I was great. Rather, I was somewhat pathetic. I can't fully control my quirk and I just ended up breaking my bones. Shia, but you can improve, and you know it. She gave him a kind smile. Izuku reciprocated. They were talking for a while about various things, since there were the two of them in the place. A certain rabbit was coming down the stairs to the first floor. She was already wearing her usual outfit, and she could clearly hear the laughter of two people. Upon arriving, she met a certain green-haired man who was happily chatting with Shia. They noticed the presence of Mirko. The green-haired one could only say, Well, I'd better go. See you, Miss Shia? Shia, see you, Izuku. It was really nice meeting you. I wish you luck with your new agency. Mirko could see how the green-haired boy left the building. Shia just returned to his place at the desk, but without looking or speaking to the rabbit. Mirko, Shia. Shia just walked past her, ignoring her. She just walked up the stairs to the third floor. Mirko knew that Shia was angry with her. For the rabbit, Shia was her only friend and it hurt her to be that way with her. Rumi left the building knowing what she had to do. Meanwhile, Izuku walked with his things while thinking about which agency to send the request to. He was so lost in his thoughts that he didn't hear someone talking to him, so he kept walking until he felt someone grab him by the shirt, stopping him. The green-haired boy snapped out of his thoughts and turned his gaze to find Mirko behind him. She had an annoyed expression on her face. Izuku, oh, what's wrong? Mirko, I was talking to you a while ago, and you just ignored me. Well, anyway, grab your things and come back to my agency. After all, you have to do your internship. Izuku, no thanks. I don't want to bother you, so I'll just go and that's it. See you later, Miss Mirko. The green-haired man turned around and left. Rumi was surprised because he was the first one who had said no to an order of hers. Chapter 3. Are there other emotions behind that coldness? She was already somewhat upset and took him by the arm, saying, Listen to me, brat, you're coming with me or else. Shia will still not talk to me and I. This last thing he said in a low voice. Izuku could see how the rabbit showed a sad look for a few seconds. The green-haired man smiled slightly because even though she showed a somewhat cold attitude at first, he realized that she could also show other expressions. Mirko, whatever you. She looked up to see that the freckled man was no longer there. But Rumi's ears turned back when he heard the voice of the green-haired man who told him. Is Miss Mirko not coming? Mirko turned around seeing how the freckled boy was looking at her with a kind smile waiting for her to return to her agency. Rumi could only turn her gaze to the side saying, HMP, thank goodness you know how to obey. If you didn't come back with me I would. Izuku, if you didn't come back, Miss Shia would still be angry with you, right? Mirko didn't answer anything and started walking past Izuku. The green-haired boy just gave a slight smile and started walking next to her. Meanwhile, Shia had returned again to the first floor with a folder of papers. She did not see Rumi, so she understood that she had left. She just sat at her desk, but her gaze would deviate when she saw how Rumi entered the building again, but her eyes did not fall on her but on a certain green-haired man who upon seeing her said to her, Hello again, Miss Shia. Shia just smiled kindly, saying, I'm glad you're back, Izuku. She looked at Rumi and said, Well? Shia's gaze was serious and cold. Mirko looked to the side saying, I'm so sorry for acting like that earlier. I'm sorry, he whispered softly. Shia, it's not me you have to apologize to. It's Izuku you have to apologize to. Mirko turned around looking at Izuku and said as best he could. I'm sorry, brat. But it is better to tell you the truth than to lie to you. Izuku, what kind of apology is that? Mirko, hey no. Izuku, but thank you, Miss Mirko. Rumi could see that green-haired smile full of kindness again. Despite how she treated him a moment ago, he was still kind to her. Shia, well then come with me, Izuku. I'll show you the room you'll be sleeping in while you're here. Izuku, oh yeah. Shia smiled at Mirko as she said, Thanks, I knew you could change. She gave the rabbit a tender hug. Rumi didn't say anything, but she couldn't say that she disliked the hug. On the contrary, she liked it. Izuku followed Shia, but before starting to go up the stairs, Mirko told him, Hey brat. Once you get settled in, put on your suit because we'll go out on patrol and then in the afternoon we'll train. Understood? Izuku, yes, understood, Miss Mirko. After about 20 minutes we can see Izuku in his hero suit patrolling the streets with Mirko, who caught the attention of the people who looked at them, obviously because of her somewhat revealing suit that she used to practice her profession. The rabbit had a serious look. The green-haired man walked behind her. He looked to the side at all times, thus avoiding seeing her. Well, the rabbit had a nice, well-worked body. If it were Mineta who was walking behind her, he would obviously be drooling and thinking unholy thoughts. But Izuku wasn't like that. He was a boy who got quite nervous when he tried to talk to a girl, not to mention that he blushed a lot. Mirko noticed this out of the corner of her eye and thought it was strange, but she didn't give it much importance, since she was used to receiving lustful glances from some men, not to mention that with her ears she could hear what they whispered sometimes. But she had her determination as a professional hero, so those things didn't affect her at all. Mirko, TCH, there's no villain to kick in the ass today? I guess I won't be so lucky today. Izuku could only feel a little sorry for whoever wanted to face Mirko. He undoubtedly knew beforehand that whoever challenged her would not come out unscathed at all. Since Mirko was known for her powerful kicks, despite being 1m and 59 centimeters tall, 1.59 m, the rabbit knew how to hit quite hard. The green-haired man barely surpassed her by about 7 centimeters, but in hand-to-hand combat she knew she would be at a total disadvantage, even more so since she couldn't control her quirk completely. As they were walking, the green-haired man received several messages. Somewhat surprised, he checked his phone. Seeing the messages, he couldn't help but have a drop of sweat on his head. Well, on the screen of his phone there were several messages from his friends and his mentor All Might. Chat All Might. Hello Shonen, how are you? How is your first day with Mirko going? Do you want us to send Recovery Girl over there? Chat Mina, good luck Izuku. Oh, by the way, I have some bandages here for your wounds in case you need them. The pink-haired girl sent a photo of the bandages. Chat Kirishima. So you accepted Miss Mirko's request, that's for men. Chat Momo, good luck Izuku-kun. Chat Todoroki, Midoriya. My sister Fuyumi is studying to be a nurse. If you want, I can tell him to help you with your wounds. By the way, it will help you practice. Izuku, you too Todoroki. The green-haired man sighed resignedly, and put his phone away without checking the other messages he had. He looked up to see how Mirko was still. The freckled boy could see how the rabbit's ears turned to her left side. Mirko, come quickly boy, he said as he ran at high speed into an alley. Izuku reacted within seconds and started running after her. Chapter 4. Let the training with Mirko begin. The rabbit ran like an animal on 4 legs. It certainly had surprising speed. She jumped, leaning on the walls of the alley and propelling herself upwards, thus having a broader view of her target. Mirko, seeing his target, smiled slightly and said, I found you. He pushed himself against the wall and propelled himself at high speed out of the other end of the alley, just running into a guy who was holding a little girl hostage. Apparently it was a robbery that went wrong and consequently ended up that way, surrounded by several police officers and some heroes who could not do anything for fear that the subject would harm the girl. Apparently, the subject's quirk was one that allowed him to turn his fingers into a kind of black whips, with which when touching his victims he would numb them, leaving them unconscious, due to a substance that was found in those whips. Subject: if you don't get out of here I'll kill you, I swear. He raised his right hand saying, with my left hand I can numb my victims, but with my right hand I can kill them since it produces another type of substance that is deadly to anyone. The heroes felt helpless at not being able to do anything. The subject was about to say something when a certain rabbit fell in front of him. He could only open his eyes wide when he saw the rabbit. Mirko took the girl in his arms, snatching her from his hands. She jumped into the air, spinning around and landing a powerful kick on his left arm. The subject flew out and hit the wall of a store. The subject spat out a lot of saliva and became unconscious. The green-haired man had reached the rabbit and managed to see everything that had happened. This, like several people, said at the same time, "Ouch, that had to hurt." Mirko held the little girl gently in his arms. Izuku watched as she looked at the little girl with some nostalgia. The little girl's mother approached Mirko with tears in her eyes saying, "Thank you very much, Miss Mirko, for saving my little girl." The rabbit handed the girl over with a slight smile. Kamui was one of the heroes who were there. He approached Mirko and claimed, "Hey Mirko, you know you shouldn't act in such a reckless way. What if you couldn't get the girl away from the guy and he used his other hand to kill her?" "Hey, you didn't start thinking." "Mirko, but I did it, didn't I? I was able to take the girl from her and save her, unlike all of you weaklings. They are not even strong when working as a team. HMP, I feel sorry for them. If I hadn't arrived, I don't know what would have become of that girl. That's why I don't like to make teams with weak heroes like you." The rabbit gave her a cold and serious look. The other heroes looked at her somewhat annoyed by her comment. "Mirko, do you have something to tell me, huh? When you stop being mocked as heroes, then talk to me." The rabbit turned around looking at the green-haired man. "Kamui, are you mocking us? If you are the one who is always on everyone's lips, there is always one or another complaint about your arrogant and unfriendly attitude. I don't know how you can be in the top 10 heroes." "Mirko, my job is to save people you don't like." The rabbit began to walk towards the freckled man saying, "And that, kid, is how you kick a villain's ass." He said this while having a proud smile. The green-haired man didn't know whether to admire his feat or feel sorry for the poor guy who received that brutal kick. "Mirko, come on boy, let's keep patrolling. Let's see if we get lucky. If we find another villain I'll let you catch him. I want to see what you can do, although I'm sure you'll end up with some broken bones." They both began to walk, resuming their course through the streets of the city. The hours passed until midday arrived. "Mirko, TCH, we couldn't find another guy to kick his ass. Anyway, let's go back to the agency, brat." "Izuku, Miss Mirko, my name is Izuku." "Mirko, I know, brat." Izuku just had a drop of sweat on his head, anime style. While they were returning, they passed by a television store, which was showing a report about the incident with that subject from a few hours ago. The news focused on Kamui talking about the incident. The heroes who had been there had received the most credit, and Mirko had barely mentioned it. Mirko only stopped for a moment to watch the news, but she just sighed deeply, and they both continued walking. After a few minutes they arrived at the agency, where she greeted them with a kind smile and lunch ready. Mirko smelled the aroma of food. Both her and Izuku's stomachs growled with hunger. She had just looked at them with a drop of sweat. She ordered them to go take a bath so they could go down to lunch. Both of them did as requested without refusing. On the 5th floor were the bedrooms of the three, and a large bathroom. Mirko was the first to take a shower. After a few minutes she came out dressed in a white t-shirt and black shorts. Around his neck was the towel he had used to dry himself. She knocked on the door of the green-haired man's room saying, "Brat, the bathroom is now ready for you to use." Izuku from inside answered that well. Rumi headed towards the 4th floor where Shia was waiting for them. After taking a bath, the green-haired boy went down to have lunch. While they were eating, Shia and the green-haired boy talked about various things. They had honestly made a good connection. The green-haired man was wearing a white t-shirt, dark red pants and his classic tennis shoes. Shia could see the scars on the green-haired man's arms and asked him if that was because of his quirk. Izuku, yes, they are the consequences of not being able to control it well. Shia, I'm sure you can master it completely. Izuku, she gave him a kind smile. Izuku reciprocated. After finishing lunch, Mirko took Izuku to the gym to train. Mirko cracked his fists and said, "Well, brat, it's time to train." Izuku swallowed a little saliva at those words. Mirko, well, we'll start with 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and 100 push-ups. And we will run 10 kilometers daily. The rabbit could see how Izuku left the gym with his bags. Mirko, where are you going, brat? Izuku, I quit. Mirko, are you resigning? Izuku, I already saw Saitama go bald with that training. So no thanks, I value my hair. See you next time, Miss Mirko. Chapter 5. Why don't you look at me, brat? The green-haired man was about to leave when he felt Mirko's hand firmly grab his shoulder. Izuku knew he wouldn't get out of that floor alive. Mirko, brat, when I say we have to train, we train, okay? He said with a voice from beyond the grave. Izuku, that's why I say you have to train. Mirko sighed, saying, Okay, kid, first of all I want you to explain to me how your quirk works. To be able to put together a routine that's right for you. Izuku, oh yeah, of course. He proceeded to tell him how One for All worked without revealing more than necessary. Mirko, with his right hand on his chin, said, In short, I must make you work on the physique of your body. That way you will be able to control it better without breaking your bones, right? Izuku, yeah, well. Something like that. Mirko had several weights in the gym to train correctly. She looked at the green-haired man, who again was not looking directly at her. She raised an eyebrow, asking, Hey brat, why don't you look at me? Izuku, well you am. Mirko showed a playful smile. She approached the green-haired boy and began to walk around him, trying to meet his emerald eyes. But Izuku always looked away. Mirko, perhaps? Can't you look at my body? He asked mischievously. Izuku didn't answer anything, but his face showed a noticeable blush. Mirko, brat, it doesn't matter if you look at me or not. I'm already used to men looking at me with lustful eyes just because of my body. But that's nothing to me. I always have my duty as a hero in mind, so those things didn't affect me. So if you want to look at me, I won't tell you anything. Izuku, please don't say that. Mirko, huh? Izuku, it's true you have a nice body and all, but don't think that I look at you that way like the others. It's true I can't look at her partly because her current clothes highlight her pro. Mirko, proportions. Izuku, yes, but also I. Mirko, what are you, brat? Izuku, I think you're very pretty, Miss Mirko. That's why I can't look you in the eyes without getting nervous. I'm a little clumsy when dealing with cute girls like you, sorry. Mirko remained silent without saying anything. She turned around, saying, we better start with a warm-up. Izuku, oh yes, Miss Mirko. Mirko was now the one who didn't look at the freckled boy. They began to warm up a little. Mirko helped the green-haired man with the stretching, but if there was something in common between them, it was that neither of them looked each other in the eyes. After finishing the warm-up, they started training with some weights, push-ups, squats with and without weight. To work on leg strength, the green-haired man could barely stand at the end of the training. His legs were burning as if he had been hit with a metal bat several times. His arms were the same way. He felt even the smallest muscles in his body trembling. Mirko acted as if nothing had happened. For her it had been like a warm-up and nothing more. The rabbit did squats with the bar on her shoulders with 200 kilos as if it was nothing. The green-haired man just looked at her in amazement. After finishing the training, Mirko told the freckled man that they would have a little hand-to-hand combat. The green-haired man nodded his head. Mirko, don't worry, brat. I promise not to kick you so hard. Just don't die from the first hit. Oh, and by the way, don't hold back. I want to test the power of your blows without using your quirk. Are you ready? Izuku, yes. Mirko, without warning, stood in front of him and gave him a small kick in the legs, enough to make him flip in the air and fall painfully to the ground. Even though it was a soft kick, the freckled boy didn't feel it that way. That kick undoubtedly made him feel as if his leg had been broken. Mirko, come on boy, tell me you can get up, he said while smiling. Izuku got up and attacked Mirko, trying to land at least one hit on him, but he fell to the ground again and again and again, being knocked down most of the time by the light kicks. According to Mirko, come on boy, show me what you're made of and stand up. If you manage to touch me, we'll be done for today. What do you think? Izuku, while breathing heavily on the ground, nodded his head. He knew he had to improve in order to master One for All and be a great hero like All Might. He stood up once again. Mirko, I think I like you better now, boy, you're a good punching bag. Maybe being with you for a month won't be so bad, maybe I can change you a little and make you stronger. You may as well attack me, he said while throwing boxing punches. Mirko approached her again, and this time he threw a straight punch with his right arm. The freckled boy was able to dodge it, but with his left hand he grabbed her arm, passing his right hand along the left side of Mirko's neck, placing his right leg on the side of the rabbit's right leg, making it work as a lever. The green-haired man spun his hips, taking advantage of the direction in which Rumi had thrown her punch, taking that speed to knock her to the ground. But the green-haired boy lost his balance and fell on top of Rumi. Yes, the green-haired boy knew that he wouldn't get out of there alive. As they fell, they were both together with their faces so close to each other, feeling each other's breathing. Yes, this time they both looked into each other's eyes without saying anything. The green-haired boy couldn't help but stop looking at those crimson eyes of the rabbit. Yes, she was definitely more beautiful up close. Those eyes were so beautiful to look at. Mirko also stared into the green-haired boy's bright emerald eyes. Mirko had a little tick in his eye in annoyance. Mirko, you sure have some balls, boy, to be on top of me. Izuku just closed his eyes thinking that this one was going to hit him, but the seconds passed, and nothing happened. Izuku opened his eyes to see Mirko looking to the side. The green-haired boy could see a small tint on the bunny's cheeks. She looked cute like that, was what the freckled boy thought. Mirko said in a whisper. See, can you take your hand off my chest? Izuku, huh? He lowered his gaze to see how with his right hand he grabbed the rabbit's left breast. Izuku blushed harder and quickly got up, apologizing immediately. Mirko stood up and without looking at him said, Well, that's all for today. You did really well, brat. She walked past the green-haired man without looking at him. And once standing in the doorway he said, About what just happened, let's act as if this didn't happen, okay? Izuku, oh, of course. Mirko left the gym, closing the door. Izuku was left alone. He released steam from his head looking at his right hand saying, It was soft. He shook his head as he said to himself, Don't think about that, Izuku. Meanwhile Mirko was leaning against the gym door. She had her gaze downcast in the same way her head released steam while her face was very flushed. Shia was just going up to the second floor, and when she saw her she asked, Are you okay, Rumi? Mirko, why yes I'm fine. Why are you asking? Mirko could barely formulate a sentence. Chapter 6. But I didn't do anything. Night had come and we can see our dear green-haired boy lying on the bed in his room. He was exhausted because it had been a very tiring day due to the rabbit's training. But without a doubt Izuku was willing to move forward no matter what it cost him. He had to become stronger to be the best hero like All Might. And Mirko's training would help him a lot to strengthen his body. He thought about how to adapt what Mirko had taught him. He knew that he could learn a lot from the rabbit. Now that he had gotten to know her a little better, he realized that maybe it wouldn't be so bad to be in her agency. Yes, he had to accept that it had been a bit of a bad start, but he had been able to see that the rabbit wasn't cold and serious at all. Since he had been able to see some different facets of Mirko, Izuku was wondering what kind of training would await him tomorrow. Thousands of ideas ran through his head. He imagined himself as a sack and Mirko was hitting him over and over again. No doubt anyone who saw what Izuku was imagining would think that Mirko was having fun hitting him. Maybe he did a little, but in each training session one must be willing to receive the necessary blows to get stronger, right? That was what the green-haired man was questioning. He was taken out of his thoughts when he heard his cell phone ring due to the messages he was receiving. Izuku grabbed his phone, seeing that it was a certain brunette who had answered him. Momo chat. Sorry for replying late, Izuku-kun. How was your day with Mirko-san? Chat Izuku. Well, to tell the truth, it was a pretty tiring day. Mirko-san's training is hard but effective. Momo chat. I know you can adapt, Izuku-kun. You are one of those people who never give up. Izuku blushed a little when he read that message, because ever since he met Momo she always encouraged him. She was undoubtedly a good friend. Chat Izuku. Thank you, Momo-san. I know that you too can achieve whatever you set out to do. You are a very intelligent and pretty girl. I believe in you, Momo-san. Momo, reading that message, had a slight tint in her cheeks. She brought her phone to her chest and in a low voice said, Baka. Momo chat. Hey! Are you saying nice things to me to gain points with me? Gomen nasai, Izuku-kun, but I only see you as a friend. Izuku, seeing that message, had a drop of sweat on his head as he said, Why do you always have to reject me? He sighed and continued talking to the brunette until midnight arrived. After that, they both said goodbye and each went to sleep, because for both of them tomorrow would be a day of work at each agency they had chosen. Meanwhile, in Mirko's room, she would be awake, unable to sleep, as certain words were running through her head. I think you are very pretty, Miss Mirko. Ever since the green-haired man had told him that, those words had not stopped hovering in his thoughts. So much so that while he was showering he kept thinking about it. Even though Rumi seemed to be serious all the time, he couldn't help but have a slight tint on his cheeks when he remembered those words. She was already somewhat upset for not being able to sleep and got out of bed carrying a pillow with her. The rabbit was wearing bunny pajamas as well as bunny slippers. She certainly looked really cute. She went to the green-haired boy's room and knocked on his door. Izuku, who until a few minutes ago had been able to fall asleep when he heard the knocks, was surprised but thought it was Shia and that she needed something, so he got up somewhat sleepily and opened the door. He found a tender Rumi in pajamas. He saw that Mirko had a small pout, a sign that she was upset. Mirko threw the pillow at his face with quite a bit of force. This caught the green-haired man by surprise. Izuku, huh? And why is that? He asked, quite confused. Mirko, you know what, Baka. After saying that, the rabbit left a little more comfortably. Izuku stared at her until she entered her room and closed the door. Izuku, did he call me Baka? But what did you do? He remembered the little incident that had happened during training. Izuku, well, I deserved it. After saying that, he closed the door and lay down on his bed, trying to go back to sleep. But the image of Mirko in pajamas was in his head. Izuku, she looked very cute and tender, he said, somewhat blushing. The next day at 7 in the morning the green-haired man got up to start his new day, but when he stood up the pain in his legs gave him the best start of the day. Yes, it was the effect after having trained yesterday with Mirko. His legs hurt quite a bit, he could barely stand. Izuku managed to get to the door as best he could. Each step he took seemed like total hell, since his legs were not entirely used to Mirko's training. Izuku, upon leaving his room, ran into Mirko in the hallway as she had just come out of the bathroom after taking a shower. Upon seeing Izuku, she said, "Oh, I see you're already up, brat. Good morning." Izuku, holding on to the wall to stay standing, replied, "Good morning, Miss Mirko." He tried to act normal in front of the rabbit. "Mirko, okay? Well, I'll let you know that there are extra towels in the bathroom for you to shower." She smiled playfully, saying, "When one day you get to the bathroom you will see them." She gave him a little pat on his right leg while laughing. She walked away from the hallway saying, "Good luck getting down those stairs, brat." Izuku watched as the rabbit walked away from him calmly. Izuku only had a tick on his left eyebrow as the rabbit had hit him on purpose. "Izuku, well, I have to get to the bathroom." he said as he took step by step because his legs were quite tired, as they had not fully recovered. Meanwhile, Rumi had arrived at the 4th floor where Shia was preparing breakfast. Well, on the 4th floor there was the kitchen and the dining room. It was quite big, to be honest, but the building itself was very cozy. Mirko, with a slight smile, said, "Good morning, Shia." Shia turned to see her. She showed a beautiful smile, saying, "Good morning, sister." She asked, "Sister, is Izuku up yet?" Mirko, with a knowing smile, replied, "Yes, he went to take a shower. I think it will take him a while to come down," he said while trying not to laugh at the freckled man's situation. Shia looked at her with a raised eyebrow. She crossed her arms, asking, "Tell me, sister, what did you do to Izuku?" Mirko put on tender little eyes full of innocence, saying, "Hey! But I didn't do anything." She bit her lips to keep from laughing. Chapter 7. Mirko's disquietude. Izuku's words revel in her. Meanwhile at UA we can see All Might, who was in his muscular form doing some paperwork with Aizawa. There was silence between the two until the blonde broke the silence with a question. "How do you think the class is doing in their internships?" Aizawa just took a breath, saying, "I don't know, but I know that they will be able to overcome the challenges that come their way. After all, they are here to become heroes. I believe in them. I know that when they return they will have improved a lot." He saw how All Might looked at him quite strangely. "Aizawa, what's wrong?" he asked with his typical expression as always. "All Might, nothing, it's just that I can't believe how much you've changed, Aizawa. It seems like the boys have been talking to you a bit." Aizawa didn't say anything, he just kept thinking about those words. All Might was reviewing some papers when he received an unexpected call. Upon hearing the voice behind the phone, he began to tremble with fear. Aizawa noticed this, so he asked, "Is something wrong?" All Might said while trembling, "And no, nothing's wrong with me, I'm fine." He stood up from his place, saying, "I'll be right back." Aizawa watched as the blonde walked out of the office trembling. He didn't give it much thought, and continued doing his thing. All Might, while walking through the halls, would say, "I have to report this to the shonen." "But why now?" "Sorry, shonen, you're alone on this one," he said as he remembered the person who had just spoken to him on the phone. All Might headed to Director Niza's office to inform him about the call. Upon hearing everything, Niza got up from his chair and walked to stand in front of the large window in the room. The rodent looked up at the sky that was gradually becoming covered by gray clouds, while he let out a small laugh, saying, "This will be perfect for young Midoriya. Without a doubt, having those two people training him will be a strange combination, complete chaos so to speak, but I think it will be fun to see what happens, don't you think, Tashinori?" "Tashinori, no offense, director, but I think you're having fun with all this." Nizu, well, a little, yes, it is unusual to see the symbol of peace trembling with fear at the call of just one person. All Might, how could I not? That person is undoubtedly someone to be feared, he said with some trauma, remembering his past. Nizu just laughed a little at the situation. Returning to our green-haired boy, he would be coming out of the bathroom after having taken a shower. He went to his room to get comfortable, and after about 10 minutes he was walking down the stairs, suffering with each step he took. After a few minutes he arrived at the 4th floor, where Shia greeted him with a warm smile and a very warm good morning. Izuku returned the greeting happily, because without a doubt the brown-haired girl was very kind to him. Shia saw that he was acting a little strange. Rumi just looked at the green-haired boy with an amused smile while taking a bite of her carrot. "Shia, come sit, Izuku, breakfast is ready." A pleasant aroma reached the freckled boy's nose, opening his appetite. The green-haired boy managed to sit down to have breakfast, but this did not go unnoticed by Shia. Izuku put his hands together, saying, "Thanks for the meal." He started eating, the green-haired man would say. "Oh, how delicious it is." "Your food is very delicious, Miss Shia." Shia was happy with those words, and with a beautiful smile she said, "Really?" Izuku, "Yes, really, I am very lucky to be able to try your food," he said while continuing to eat. Shia, "Thanks, Izuku-kun." Mirko, Brad, after we finish breakfast we will go for a run. We will go out for a run at this time every day. Izuku, just thinking about the idea of running, knew that it would be quite a challenge in his current state. He nodded his head. Mirko, with a big smile, would say, I just hope you can keep up with me. Shia, before you go running I will help you relax your muscles, Izuku. Since I see that you're having trouble walking, your muscles must be very contracted from your training yesterday. Izuku, thank you very much, I appreciate it, Miss Shia. Mirko would say, laughing. I want to see if you thank her after she helps you. Izuku, huh? What are you talking about? Shia, don't pay attention to Rumi, she's just bothering you. Izuku, I see. After finishing breakfast, Shia and Izuku went to the second floor where she helped him relax and stretch his muscles. Izuku had tears in his eyes as Shia helped him stretch his muscles. To give you an idea of the scene, it's like when Tanjiro and Inosuke were stretching with Shinobu's assistance. Well, that was the suffering the green-haired man was going through. Mirko was leaning on the door frame while holding her stomach after laughing at the green-haired boy. After finishing stretching, Shia stood up saying, Now you'll feel better, Izuku-kun. Hey! She saw how her soul floated out of the green-haired man's mouth. Mirko, I think he is more dead than alive, he said, holding back the urge to laugh. The soul of the freckled man would say, Here I go, St. Peter. Mirko carried the green-haired boy on his shoulder as if he were a sack of potatoes while saying, I'll take the brat so he can change his clothes so we can go out for a run. Otherwise we will never get out. Shia nodded her head as she watched Rumi leave the room to head to the bedrooms. Upon arrival, this would say, We're here, brat. After saying that, she dropped him to the ground. Izuku, ouch. Thanks for the soft landing, he said with some sarcasm. Mirko, you're welcome. Now go get changed so we can start our 10-kilometer running routine. Izuku, are we really going to go all that distance? Mirko, yeah, so go change. I'll go change too. After saying that, the rabbit went to her room. Izuku was still lying on the ground as he thought. What if I use one for all to break my legs so I don't have to go running? It tempts me, but no. He stood up, noticing that the pain was not as strong as before. Izuku, wow, it seems that she is stretching, although it was painful, was effective, well, a little. After a few minutes, the green-haired man was on the first floor dressed in clothing suitable for the activity he was going to do. He would be talking to Shia, waiting for Mirko to come down. Izuku's eyes met those crimson-red eyes of a certain rabbit. Rumi was wearing black shorts, accompanied by a thin red sweatshirt. Yes, it had to be said that she looked really beautiful in that outfit. The green-haired man realized that any garment she wore looked beautiful on Mirko. He blushed and looked away to the side, trying not to look at her too much. Shia looked at him somewhat strangely. Rumi was about to say something when she remembered those words that had kept her awake the night before. Her cheeks had a slight blush that was almost imperceptible to anyone. Mirko tried to look and act normal. With his serious look, he said, Well, I'm ready, brat. It's time for us to go run our 10 kilometers. Izuku, without looking at her, nodded his head. Shia sent them off with a kind smile, saying, I will wait for them anxiously. Do your best, Izuku-kun. Izuku smiled kindly at the brown-haired girl, his new friend, since he considered her a friend. He had made an incredible connection with her, and she was just like a certain dark-haired girl who always encouraged him not to give up. Shia watched the two walk away until they were out of sight. The brown-haired girl went to do the paperwork she had pending. With Izuku and Rumi, they walked towards a small road that was next to a beautiful beach having a unique view. It was perfect for running because the place was not very busy, and it was a straight and quiet path. Both were in complete silence, somewhat uncomfortable, one could say, because the two of them made the moment uncomfortable. Izuku was walking in front of Rumi. There was no reason he would walk behind her. Mirko didn't say anything, she just looked at the freckled boy's back as they walked. She saw that his hair was very messy. To break the silence, the rabbit tried to start a conversation. Talking a lot was certainly not her strong suit, but she could no longer stand the discomfort that the silence caused them. Mirko, is your hair always this messy? Izuku, oh yeah, my hair was like that since I was little. I can comb it, but I feel more comfortable leaving it as is. Mirko, I see. There was that awkward silence again. Yes, she admitted it was a failure when trying to start a conversation with someone else. But in that silence a question came to his mind, and it was, why did his words affect me so much? If this isn't the first time they've told me that. Why am I like this? Is it because all those who told me that had other intentions with me? But Mirko glanced at the green-haired boy, remembering the way he had told her she was pretty. He had been a bit clumsy and shy, but his words had been completely different from what she had heard in the past from other boys. Yes, her words were selfless and without lustful intentions behind them. It was simply something that Mirko did not fully understand. Why were those words so different to them? Certainly his friend Hawks had told him the same thing before, but they were always into joking around, so he never took it seriously. Besides, Hawks wasn't one of those guys with ulterior motives. For Mirko, he was a brainless bird who only knew how to obey the orders of his superiors and nothing else. She was taken out of her thoughts when she heard a question from the green-haired man. Izuku, his hair. Was it always that platinum color? He asked somewhat nervously, looking to the side. Mirko grabbed a lock of her hair, staring at it as it was the first time she had noticed his tone. Mirko, yes, as long as I can remember it was always this color. Izuku, I see. Mirko, your freckles. Are they from birth? The rabbit didn't want that silence to return, so she asked anything without thinking. Izuku, yes, they are from birth. According to Mom, I got my father's freckles, he said with a slight smile. Can you move your ears at will? He asked as he watched Mirko's ears turn to the side in the same direction as him. Mirko, on my ears, I can move them at will, he said while moving them to the sides. Izuku, seeing this, thought that they were giving him a tender touch. Without thinking about what he was saying, he replied, You look very cute, Mirko-san. Mirko's ears stopped dead, staying completely straight at the green-haired man's words. Izuku quickly covered his mouth upon hearing himself say that. Mirko didn't say anything. The green-haired man, somewhat nervous, said, Aye. Mirko replied in a whisper, Thank you. The green-haired man heard her but thought that she had imagined everything, so he asked, What did Miss Mirko say? Mirko, I didn't say anything. We have already arrived at the place. The green-haired boy saw the beautiful view of the beach. It was undoubtedly a place he had never visited. Mirko, start warming up, brat, he said as he turned his back and walked away a little to stretch his muscles. Chapter 8. Do you like Mirko's ears? The green-haired man began to stretch his muscles a little, since the pain in his legs had already gone away a little thanks to Shia. At least he was no longer as tired as before. While Izuku was stretching, he noticed how Mirko was looking at him out of the corner of his eye. When he was about to look at her to ask if something was wrong, she immediately turned her gaze away, pretending to look somewhere else. Izuku only had a drop of sweat on his head as he was certainly sure that she had been watching him. After a few minutes of doing the corresponding stretching, Mirko and Izuku began to run, neither too slow nor too fast. They ran at a moderate pace without slowing down. In a moment, without realizing it, the rabbit had started to run a little faster, passing the green-haired boy. Izuku was not far behind and increased his speed, surpassing Mirko. Mirko smiled when he saw her pass by and said, Do you really think you can beat me, brat? She increased her speed and passed him, creating a large gap. Izuku did not give up and ran as fast as his legs would allow him, reaching level with Rumi. They both took each other's action as a race, so they had no plans to stop for a moment. After about 10 minutes, we can see Izuku lying on the road while breathing heavily. Rumi was at his side, breathing heavily in the same way. Mirko, why, you see, brat, I beat you, he said with a proud smile. Izuku, if I admit my defeat. I don't think I can stop myself, he said while laughing a little. Mirko sat up suddenly. Izuku looked at her out of the corner of his eye. She had a beautiful smile. It would say, We have to do it again tomorrow. Since I am so good, I will give you revenge. She stopped when she saw the green-haired man staring at her. Mirko, ahem, I say. You ran well, brat. Tomorrow we will go out for a run at the same time. She stood up and turned her back to start walking, but stopped when she heard Izuku's words. Izuku, if I can get a smile out of you at the end of the race, like the smile you showed me just then, I will run as many times as necessary, Mirko-san. Mirko, whatever you say, brat, I wasn't smiling at you, I was just laughing at you, that's all, she responded, trying to act like herself. Izuku stood up as best he could and began to walk alongside the rabbit. Izuku, I'll beat you tomorrow, I promise. Mirko, HMP, I want to see that brat. Without realizing it, they gradually began to trust each other. That awkward silence had been forgotten because on the way back they talked a little more to each other, and without either of them realizing it, this time they looked into each other's eyes. Mirko, wow, you really are a nerd. Having so many notebooks with notes about the hero's quirks is definitely brainy, he said in a mocking way. Izuku, I know, well, it's something I can't avoid, he said, somewhat embarrassed. I always admired heroes, especially All Might. He was the one who encouraged my dreams of becoming a hero. I want to save people with a big smile like him. The rabbit noticed that there was great determination in the green-haired man's words, so she responded. HMP, well, you're lucky, kid. I promise you that during this month that you're in my agency I will make you strong. So you can better master your quirk, he said with a proud smile. Izuku returned that smile, saying, Thank you? Mirko mockingly said. So, you're a geeky All Might fan, right? He said while touching her left cheek with his finger again and again. Well, that was the rabbit's personality. She was someone who loved to make jokes and tease, but all of that was overshadowed when she showed her serious look to others. Well, he only showed his true personality to those he trusted, and the freckled boy slowly began to win her over. On the way home, Mirko had called him a geek while continuing to touch his cheek. The green-haired boy didn't mind at all. Well, that day he had learned a little more about Mirko. Yes, she was definitely not like what was rumored about her. It only took the green-haired man one day to know that. Mirko had also changed his perspective on the green-haired boy, as he had had a lot of fun with that little race they had done. It had been a while since she had felt that kind of fun with someone. She knew it. She knew she would have a whole month to find out more about the green-haired man and annoy him, of course. Well, somehow Mirko had fallen quite well to him. They were walking down the streets when a little girl with black hair and blue eyes of approximately 6 years old stood in front of Mirko. The little girl had a small notebook in her hands along with a pen. Mirko saw the girl, somewhat surprised and with a serious face. The girl seemed to be very nervous. She was trying to formulate a prayer. Izuku, upon seeing her, could see himself as a child for a moment. He knew what the girl wanted. Mirko, what's wrong, girl? Are you lost? Izuku knelt down until he was face to face with the little girl, and with a kind smile he said, Tell me, little one, what's your name? The girl, seeing the green-haired boy's smile, calmed down a little, taking a deep breath and said, Ruri Amaiki. Izuku Amaiki? Could it be that you are Tamaki-senpai's sister? The girl nodded her head happily. Izuku, nice to meet you, I'm Midoriya Izuku. But you can call me Deku. The girl showed a small smile and the small lock of hair she had raised moved to the sides. Izuku, tell me, Ruri, do you want an autograph from Mirko-san, right? The girl nodded her head. Mirko had obviously heard everything. This one said, So that was it, come give me the notebook, girl. Izuku realized that Mirko wasn't very good at dealing with children. While Mirko gave him his autograph, Izuku carried Ruri on his shoulders while making her play. Mirko looked at the green-haired boy as if he wanted to be part of his world. Izuku, tell me, Ruri-chan, what do you like most about Mirko-san? Ruri, her ears. Her ears are very cute, she responded with a tender smile. Izuku, I see. Mirko approached them, his gaze showing an emotion that the green-haired man had not seen until now. Mirko, do you want to touch my ears, Ruri? Ruri, huh? Can I really miss Mirko-san? Mirko nodded his head. The little girl, being on the green-haired boy's shoulders, stretched out her hand until it came into contact with the soft fur of Mirko's ears. The rabbit gave the girl a slight smile. Ruri, wow, they are so soft and tender. The people around them looked at the scene in surprise, as it was unusual for Mirko to act that way. They always saw her as someone serious and rude, but seeing her smile at the girl like that made them change their point of view. Ruri, Deku-kun, do you like Mirko-san's ears? Mirko avoided looking at the green-haired man at that question. Izuku, of course I like Mirko-san's ears, they are very cute. Ruri grabbed the green-haired boy's hand so that he could also touch Mirko's ears. Mirko felt the green-haired boy's fingers make contact with her ears. She couldn't help but look into his eyes. Seeing him, he could see that he was smiling tenderly. That smile that Mirko still didn't understand made him feel different than usual. When Izuku was about to remove his hand from the rabbit's ears, he felt Mirko grab him, stopping him. He looked into her eyes, noticing a tender glow in them. Mirko, you can play them a little longer if you want. Izuku was about to say something, but Ruri interrupted the moment, saying, You are my favorite hero, Mirko-san. The green-haired boy lowered the little girl from his shoulders. Mirko gave her the autograph. She knelt down and the girl gave her a big hug, saying, Thank you. Mirko felt that sincere hug from the girl and he reciprocated it. Several people began to film that tender scene. Izuku saw how Mirko looked happy about that hug, so he smiled slightly. After separating from the hug, the little girl said goodbye to Izuku and the rabbit to run into her mother's arms, to tell her how happy she was to have met Mirko. The little girl's mother thanked Mirko and left with the girl in her arms. A certain hero with a pair of red wings was on top of a building. Hawks had seen the whole scene and smiled slightly, saying, I knew I had made a good bet. Anyway, I want to keep watching how all this develops. Hawks spread his wings and flew away from the place. Chapter 9. The Call of All Might. Izuku and Mirko in the shower? After the little girl left, Mirko and Izuku looked into each other's eyes and quickly turned their gaze away. Mirko, let's go, brat. Izuku, oh yeah, Mirko-san. They resumed their path. Izuku could feel the warmth and softness of Mirko's ears on his fingers. She looked at her out of the corner of her eye and wanted to touch the rabbit's ears again. It was undoubtedly a warm and comforting feeling. There was no better feeling than that. Mirko could feel the touch of the green-haired man's fingers on his ears. She remembered what he had told her a couple of seconds ago. You can play them a little longer if you want. This in his thoughts would say. Why did I have to tell him that? I must behave like a professional. Mirko, that girl was very sweet. Izuku, yes, you're right. You know, it was nice to see that part of you, Mirko-san. Well, you really seemed very tender with the girl, although at first you seemed very serious. In the end, well, you know. Mirko gave a slight mocking smile, saying, Are you sure that was the part you liked about me? You haven't seen my cue. Izuku, oh, of course not. He replied, blushing deeply. Mirko just laughed at the green-haired man, but it was obvious that those words had touched her emotionally, but she didn't want to show it. Well, she thought that would make her look weak to others, so she tried to stay serious and avoid being as unfeminine as possible. Besides, she was no longer a 15 or 16-year-old schoolgirl who was blushing over cheesy things, nor was it something that attracted attention. Mirko preferred to focus on his dream of being a hero and nothing else, so he never made time for romance or anything like that. They both arrived at the agency where she greeted them with his usual warm and welcoming smile. Mirko, hey brat, let's go to the gym, it's time to train. Izuku, oh yeah. She motioned to the green-haired man to come closer to her. Mirko saw this, saying, Well, I'll wait for you on the second floor. I'll go prepare the weights. After saying that, the rabbit went down the stairs. Izuku, Shia-san, what's up? He couldn't finish speaking as Shia gave him a warm hug, saying, Thank you. Izuku blushed a little and asked, Why is Shia-san hugging me? Shia separated from the hug, taking out her cell phone, showing her a video. The video showed the scene of Izuku carrying Ruri while the little girl touched Rumi's ears. The video lasted until Rumi hugged the little girl The video was on social media and incredibly it was trending with millions of views due to the tender scene. The biggest reason was because of that new version of Mirko. Shia, I know you had a lot to do with that happening. Since I know Mirko, she is not one to do those things. She is not very good at opening up to others and even less so when dealing with children. I know you had a lot of influence on her, so I thank you. Izuku, somewhat embarrassed, said. But I didn't do anything special. She's already that cute, she just doesn't show it very often, that's all. Shia, but you were able to bring out that side of her in just one day. Please keep helping her, she said with a beautiful smile. Izuku reciprocated by saying, Of course, after all, that's what a hero does, help others. Shia smiled at him, saying, I believe in you, hero Deku. They both just laughed a little. The freckled boy went to the second floor because Mirko was waiting for him to train. When she arrived, she found Mirko stretching as was her custom. The freckled man warmed up a little beforehand and they began to enter. This time Mirko focused more on the flexibility of the green-haired man's legs. Because in order to kick higher he had to have good flexibility to be able to achieve it. So she helped him with several flexibility exercises, each exercise lasting 10 to 15 minutes. After finishing the respective exercises, Mirko would say, Well, brat, today I'll teach you how to kick the right way. Izuku nodded his head. Mirko had a perfect punching bag in the gym to hit. She taught him how to kick and how to rotate his hips so that the kick would be more powerful. She made him practice the same kick 500 times, so that the correct way to do it would be recorded in his memory. They trained like this for a while until they finished. Once again the green-haired man's legs were shaking violently. Mirko, good job, brat, you learned fast. You will have the afternoon free, since we will not go out on patrol today. So feel lucky, he said with a big smile. Izuku understood Mirko-san. Mirko, well, that's all for today, brat. You can rest now. If you want, you can go take a shower and I'll train a little longer. Izuku nodded but stared at her. Mirko also stared into his eyes. The green-haired boy approached her looking at the rabbit's ears. Mirko saw this and without thinking he grabbed the green-haired boy by the hand, bringing his right hand to his ears, saying, Just for today I will give you permission to touch them. Izuku smiled slightly as he gently and sweetly caressed the rabbit's ears. Mirko could feel the gentleness with which he touched her. It wasn't that he disliked it or anything, but why did he let her touch his ears with it? She wondered this since she was very reserved with her ears. Only she touched them and sometimes she let Shia touch them, but Izuku was something new for her. It was as if she wanted to feel more of the warmth and delicacy of the green-haired man's fingers. It felt as if he was pampering her for something. Yeah, that's how she felt. Like she was being given love for being good or something. Rumi looked into the green-haired boy's eyes, noticing that sparkle of excitement he had. She had just noticed how close they were. Mirko, that's enough. She kicked the green-haired boy, causing him to flip in the air and throw him to the ground. The rabbit came out of the gym with her face painted in a slight blush and said, Why did I let him touch my ears? Mirko headed to the 5th floor to take a shower. She wanted to forget that moment. She just wanted to get the green-haired boy's smile out of her head. She wanted to forget the words he had said to her earlier. Well, they were in her head again. They were simple words that wouldn't leave her alone. Izuku was still lying on the ground as he wondered if he had done something wrong. At that, the green-haired man's cell phone rang and he saw that it was his mentor and teacher All Might. The haired man answered and could clearly hear a bit of fear in his teacher's voice. All Might, as shonen, listen to me, see carefully, in a few days he will go see you. Izuku, him? Who are you talking about, All Might? And why does your voice tremble? All Might, yes, my mother. The blonde couldn't finish speaking because his phone had run out of charge. Izuku, hello? All Might? The green-haired man put his phone away and thought about his teacher's words, wondering who he could be talking about. Izuku didn't think much about it, and went to the 5th floor to take a shower, since Rumi had told him that he could rest for today. But what the green-haired boy didn't know was that the rabbit had gone in to take a bath. Izuku had headphones on listening to some music to distract himself. he went into his room to prepare the clothes he was going to wear. Izuku headed to the shower. Having his headphones on, he didn't hear the sound of the water. The freckled man entered but did not look at the shower area because there were glass doors that separated the shower from the rest of the bathroom. He hadn't noticed that the windows were fogged up. The green-haired man took off his clothes, leaving him completely naked. He took a towel and put it around his waist. Rumi hadn't heard the sound of the door closing as she was deep in her thoughts. She turned off the shower tap, ready to get out. The rabbit put on a towel covering her entire torso and part of her waist down. Izuku took off his headphones, placing his phone to the side to go take a shower. He was about to open the shower doors when his eyes opened wide as he saw the door open, and that was where his eyes met Paradise XD. He saw Mirko, who upon seeing him opened her eyes wide with a slight blush. Izuku, Mirko-san. Mirko be brat. Seeing this, Rumi inadvertently dropped the towel that was covering her. Unknown, sir, how lucky some people are. Chapter 10, Pervert-kun? The arrival of the master. Izuku, seeing Mirko, blushed deeply. Izuku, Miss Mirko is not what I think. Schism, run hitch. Run e. Mirko had a vein of annoyance on his forehead, so he quickly picked up the towel and covered himself. Mirko sent his right fist back and quickly threw it at Izuku. The green-haired man could see how Mirko's fist said, "Death." Mirko shiny. The rabbit hit the green-haired boy full in the face, causing him to fly out of the bathroom, breaking the entrance door. Mirko p pervert. The rabbit walked past the green-haired man, who had his soul coming out of his mouth. Mirko burst into smoke upon reaching his room, his face completely flushed. He said in a low voice, "He has saw me and naked." After half an hour we can see the green-haired boy kneeling on the dining room floor, as if he were being punished, while Rumi looked at him somewhat embarrassed and annoyed. Shia didn't understand what had happened between the two of them, since she had asked Mirko, but she didn't want to tell her anything. Shia, resigned to the rabbit, asked Izuku, who had an ice pack on his left cheek because it was in that area where he had received the full blow. "Izuku, please Miss Shia, I don't want to talk about that," he said, somewhat embarrassed. "Shia, gosh, why are they like this with me? What happened between you? I want to know," she said while having a slight cute pout. The morning passed like this as usual. Shia had prepared lunch as usual. That day the green-haired boy had again given him some nice compliments for his exquisite food. After lunch, Shia had gone out as he had some important business to do. Izuku and Mirko had been left alone in the building. The green-haired boy had fallen asleep on the sofa that was in the dining room because they had a TV there to watch the news. Being exhausted, the freckled man had fallen deeply asleep, with the lights off and the television on. Mirko was just going up to that floor, and seeing him asleep she approached him, and with the index finger of her right hand she touched his cheeks to see if he would wake up, but when he didn't wake up Mirko smiled maliciously. He went to his room to get a marker, and when he came back he wrote something on the freckled boy's forehead while laughing and saying, "This is my revenge, brat." Rumi's face was close to the green-haired boy. The rabbit was at the back of the sofa. After finishing writing on the green-haired boy's forehead, she was preparing to leave, but she didn't expect Izuku to manage to wrap his arms around her neck. Izuku turned to his right side, taking Rumi with him. Mirko was being hugged by the green-haired man while she was next to him. Mirko, quite blushing, would say, "Why let me go, you brat?" She thought the green-haired boy was awake, but when she looked up she saw that Izuku was fast asleep. This one said, "No, I don't want to go to school, Mom." Rumi, with a drop of sweat on his head, would say, "I'm not your mother." She tried to break free from his hold, but realized the position they were in, and if Izuku woke up and saw her next to him, he would think badly of her. Rumi opened her eyes wide because she didn't want him to think badly that she was a pervert, or something like that. So she carefully tried to get out of his hold so as not to wake him up, but Izuku hugged her harder, holding her against his chest. Mirko couldn't help but blush because it was the first time something like that had happened to him, and in the end he gave up. Letting him hold her while she slept, the rabbit was snuggled against the green-haired man's chest. She raised her gaze to see his face, her eyes falling on his freckles that she could now see very closely. The rabbit's crimson eyes fell on the green-haired boy's warm and tender expression as he slept, a carefree and calm expression, so much so that he seemed to be smiling slightly. Mirko extended his right hand, touching the green-haired man's ruffled curls. He would say, "Her hair is soft." Without thinking, she began to play with her index finger, making circles in the green-haired boy's hair. This action relieved her a lot of stress. It was undoubtedly a comforting action for the rabbit. Mirko showed a slight smile as he watched him sleep. Little by little the rabbit began to close her eyes, falling asleep next to the green-haired boy. Rumi's right hand had stayed on the green-haired boy's left cheek. The scene was tender. It was as if she was touching him with affection. The hours had passed, and it was almost 8 at night. The green-haired boy had been sleeping all afternoon. He began to open his eyes a little, saying, "Oh, how well I slept." He looked towards the kitchen and saw Mirko, the rabbit, who was drinking a glass of water, very flushed and nervous. "Izuku, Miss Mirko, are you okay?" Mirko, "Oh, of course, brat. Why do you ask?" Izuku saw how nervous she was. He had a slight drop of sweat on his head, saying, "Not for anything in particular." "And Miss Shia?" Mirko, "Well, she left. She'll surely be coming." Izuku, "I see." The green-haired boy got up and went to the 5th floor to his room. When he was alone in the living room, Mirko took a deep breath, saying, "How could I fall asleep next to him? Thank goodness Shia didn't see us. I don't know what he would have thought of me." Flashback. Mirko opened his eyes and saw how he was hugging the green-haired boy, and how their lips were about to touch. The rabbit burst out, throwing smoke and blushing profusely. She didn't care if he woke up or not, and abruptly released herself from the hug. Fortunately for her, the green-haired boy continued sleeping. She breathed a sigh of relief but saw how Izuku began to wake up. So he quickly went to the kitchen and grabbed a glass of water to cover up the situation a bit. End of flashback. When Izuku arrived at his room, he looked at his phone and was surprised to see that he had several missed calls from his mentor All Might. Without mentioning that he had messages from his classmates. The green-haired man prepared to answer the messages. The hours had passed until dinner time, where Shia came down and looked at the green-haired man quite strangely, saying, "Perverted kun? Izuku, huh?" Mirko just laughed from the kitchen. "Shia, Izuku-kun, why do you have that word written on your forehead?" "Izuku, what is Shia-san talking about?" Shia handed him a mirror so he could see himself. The green-haired man opened his eyes wide when he saw that the word was written on it with a permanent marker. "Perverted kun. Izuku, huh?" Forks. He glanced at the rabbit, watching her stick her tongue out at him mockingly. Izuku understood that it was his revenge for the shower thing. "Izuku, I'll be right back." After about 10 minutes, Izuku came back down, now with his forehead almost clean, since the words had not been completely removed. They were still almost visible if you looked at them up close. They had dinner relatively normally. Well, you could say that, since when Mirko needed something he would say, "Pervert kun, can you pass that to me?" Among other things, Shia didn't understand why he called him that. Note: Shia, I love your innocence. End of note. We can see the green-haired man lying on his bed. It was almost midnight. He was about to sleep when there was a knock on his door. He got up, somewhat surprised, and went to see who it was. And like the night before, Mirko hit him in the face with a pillow while saying, "Good night, perverted kun." The rabbit left. Izuku took a deep breath, saying, "I will never let him forget it." Mirko, upon arriving at his room, lay down on his bed to sleep, but when he closed his eyes he remembered how he had slept all afternoon with the green-haired boy. The rabbit covered her face with a pillow, saying, "He was warm." Perverted kun baka. The next day we can see our 3 protagonists on the 1st floor. Mirko was in a sports suit ready to go out for a run with the green-haired boy. But Shia asked her to accompany her to a certain place where she needed her for something. The rabbit nodded, saying, "When I get back we'll go out for a run, perverted kun." "Izuku, stop calling me that." he said, quite blushed and nervous. Mirko just smiled mockingly at him. Shia, we'll be back soon, Izuku-kun. After saying that, they both left the building, leaving the green-haired man alone. Izuku was thinking about what to do. He was about to sit at Shia's desk when he heard the front door open. He thought that Mirko and Shia had forgotten something. But when he turned his gaze, he saw a short, elderly man. His hair and beard were gray. This one had a black mask, yellow gloves, as well as his boots and cape. The freckled man saw that he had a small cane. Izuku, good morning, sir. How can I help you? He asked kindly. The man looked him straight in the eyes with great seriousness, saying, Who are you? Izuku almost fell to the ground at the question. With a drop of sweat on his head, he answered, My name is Midoriya Izuku. How can I help you? That man began to walk around the green-haired man, while looking him up and down, saying, I see I'll have a lot of work. Izuku, work? He asked, quite confused. That gentleman stood in front of him, saying, Get ready. Without further ado, he attacked Izuku at high speed. The green-haired man couldn't believe the speed that man possessed. He managed to dodge it, but watched in amazement as his rival propelled himself from wall to wall at high speed. So much so that he couldn't figure out where he was. Izuku received a kick in the back and fell to the ground in pain. That man fell in front of him, saying, Attack me using one for all. Chapter 11, Control over the one for all? Pervert Kun Baka. Izuku, upon hearing such words, opened his eyes wide, remembering the words his mentor had told him over the phone the night before. Flashback. After receiving the blow with Mirko's pillow, the green-haired man was getting ready to lie down again, but at that moment his phone rang. He saw that it was a call from his mentor, so he immediately answered. All Might proceeded to tell him that in a few days he would be visited by a person who knew everything about One for All and that he had been his teacher. At those words, Izuku was impressed because the person who had trained his hero would visit him, but All Might did not describe what his teacher was like. End of flashback. Izuku, you are All Might's master. Gran Torino, that's right, I am Gran Torino, Toshinori's teacher. And I'm here to help you control One for All, since I saw your disastrous fight at the sports festival against Endeavor's son. Izuku felt sorry for those words because it was undoubtedly a part of his life that others would never forget, but also for the way his bones broke. Gran Torino, well, what do you expect? I told you to attack me using One for All. Izuku, but if I use it on this lady? Gran Torino hit him with his cane and said, Just do what I tell you, but please try not to break your fingers. After saying that, Gran Torino began to jump all over the place. Izuku tried to follow him with his gaze. He extended one of his fingers just as he had done with Shoto. Izuku in his thoughts would say, I have to concentrate so as not to break my bones. The green-haired man was shaking a little but was ready to attack. Izuku smiles. He was hit in the back again and fell to the ground. Gran Torino, you hesitate a lot when attacking. If this was a real fight, you'd be dead already. I see that Toshinori is no good at teaching. Izuku stood up as best he could. Gran Torino, your reaction time is slow. You concentrate on sending the power of One for All to a single point to avoid further damage to your body. Have you ever thought about using One for All as if you were breathing? Izuku opened his eyes wide as he didn't quite understand Gran Torino's words. Gran Torino noticed the freckled man's confused face, so he said, Wait here for me, brat, I'll be right back. The freckled man could see how Gran Torino left the building, and after about 8 minutes he returned with a bag in hand. Izuku, where did Gran Torino go? Gran Torino with a smile would say, To buy taiyaki to eat. By the way, kid, they have a microwave in this place, right? Izuku, yes, please follow me. The freckled man guided Gran Torino to the kitchen. Upon arriving, the freckled man told Gran Torino to sit down and that he was going to heat up the taiyaki. While placing the taiyaki in the microwave, he thought, Use One for All as if you were breathing. Thinking about it carefully, I have to accept that everyone else had 15 years to develop. Time waits for no one. At this point, to bring out more than 5% of my power, all I need is to prepare my body. The microwave rang and the green-haired man took out the taiyaki and placed them on the table. Gran Torino, yes, here it is. Eat it while it's hot. Izuku in his thoughts would say. My time is limited. What should I do? Gran Torino, why that face? For now, let's just eat this taiyaki hot. He took a bite of the taiyaki and said, It's cold. Izuku, what? No way. I defrosted it in the microwave, I think. Gran Torino, are you an idiot? You just shoved a huge plate in there like that? He pointed to the microwave and said, If you force a plate like that in, it won't spin, so only one part will heat up. Is this your first time using a microwave? Izuku, oh, at my house we have one that doesn't spin. I'm sorry. The green-haired man opened his eyes wide, saying, I got it. Gee, Gran Torino-san. This taiyaki is me. Gran Torino, no, you're not. Are you okay? Izuku, oh no, that's not what I meant. Only now I understand. Until now I've insisted on using one for all when I needed it, in the places I needed it. Like flipping a switch, but because of that my reaction times became increasingly slower. If that's the case, you should keep the switch on all the time. While saying that, the green-haired man let one for all flow throughout his body, which became covered with several red lines. Izuku in his thoughts would say, Imagine the heat that used to be in one spot now all over my body. Gran Torino in his thoughts would say. He realized it very quickly. Izuku, all over my body. Continuously. To the limit that my body allows 5%. The green rays of one for all came out of the green-haired man's body. Gran Torino, watching a taiyaki in the microwave is boring. Is that okay? Izuku, All Might already said that okay. Gran Torino, can you move in that state? Izuku, I don't know. Gran Torino smiled and asked, Do you want to try it? Izuku, yes. Please. Gran Torino, let's see one for all is turning on the whole body. If you can keep it like that you will definitely not be the same as at the festival. Let's see what you can do. Gran Torino showed a wristwatch saying, You have 3 minutes. Izuku, 3 minutes? Gran Torino, try to hit me before time runs out. After saying that he started jumping all over the place. The green-haired man received a kick to the face in seconds. Izuku, damn, I couldn't keep it up. While jumping all over the place, Gran Torino would say, You're pathetic if you can't react to something as simple as this. You will never save anyone. He who considers himself a symbol of peace does not stop before a wall like this. Izuku, one for all. The green-haired man continued to be beaten before being able to send one for all throughout his body again. Izuku, I need more time to be able to activate it throughout my body. His punches aren't very powerful, but I can't follow them with my eyes. In that case I must gain time. The green-haired boy hid under the kitchen table. Gran Torino, how stupid, I can still see you. You won't gain any time like this. Face me. He launched himself at the table, which flew towards him. Izuku now. Gran Torino in his thoughts would say. So your plan was to stop me? That was very clever. Izuku took off from the ground at high speed, propelling himself towards his rival, saying, One for all, full cowl. Gran Torino dodged the attack, but a wave of wind sent several things flying in the kitchen. Gran Torino, you failed, he said as he stood behind him. Izuku, he's behind. Gran Torino, if you let yourself be surprised so easily you will lose. To this Deku's amazement, he dodged them by jumping upwards. Izuku pushed himself up onto the roof saying, Smash. Unfortunately for the green-haired Gran Torino, he dodged him. Izuku to himself would say, He dodged it. Gran Torino pushed himself against the wall and kicked the green-haired man in the chest, causing him to hit the wall, thus ending the fight. Gran Torino, 3 minutes. I must say you've improved a bit. Well, I'll come every day to train you. Understood? Izuku stood up saying. Yes, sir. Gran Torino, okay, come with me to the exit, boy. Tomorrow afternoon I will come to train you. The green-haired man nodded and they went down to the first floor. No doubt both the kitchen and the reception room were a mess because of both of them. Izuku saw this saying. Mirko-san is going to kill me. Unfortunately for them, Shia and Mirko were entering the building. Mirko, seeing how the first floor was, looked at Izuku saying, Brat, what happened here? And what are you doing here, old man? Gran Torino, who are you? Mirko, I'm old Mirko. Gran Torino, who are you? Mirko, oh, don't buck with me, old man. Shia was laughing at the scene. Before leaving, Gran Torino looked at the freckled man and said, See you tomorrow, boy. After saying that, he left. Mirko looked at Izuku saying, And you're quite a pervert, kun. Aren't you going to answer me? What happened here? Izuku, well, this one will see. Several minutes later. We can see the green-haired man cleaning the kitchen walls, while Mirko was watching him, since the green-haired man had already cleaned the reception room on the first floor. Shia just laughed as the green-haired man had a drop of sweat on his head, not to mention that the scene was quite comical. Mirko, you better clean up well, you perverted kun. Did you hear me? Izuku, yes, Mirko-san. Mirko, we only go out for a few minutes, and when we come back everything is a mess. The rabbit saw how the green-haired man looked at her and asked, What's up, brat? Why are you looking at me? Izuku, ah well, I think Mirko-san is very cute when she's angry. Mirko blushed slightly and tried to remain calm, saying, Don't think that by giving me a compliment you will save yourself from your punishment, keep cleaning. Izuku sighed resignedly and quietly said, Well, I tried. Mirko left the dining room saying, Shia, please watch the brat, I'll be right back. Shia nodded her head. Mirko, upon leaving that room, leaned against the wall and blushed deeply, said, Perverted kun baka. Why did you have to tell me that? Chapter 12. Why do you have to be so cool? Baka. After about 20 minutes, the green-haired man had already cleaned the entire place. Izuku, I finally finished cleaning, Shia-san. Shia, well done, Izuku-kun. The brown-haired girl gave him a warm smile. Izuku, seeing that smile, felt as if it were his reward for his effort, because Shia's smile was the most beautiful thing to see. Shia, I'm sorry if I didn't help you, it's just that Mirko gave me orders not to help you clean. I'm sorry. Izuku, you don't have to apologize, Miss Shia. After all, this was my fault, so it was only fair that I cleaned up. Shia, and tell me, what was Gran Torino doing here? Izuku, huh? Do you know Gran Torino? Shia, well, I know him from his work as a hero, but I never had the chance to talk to him directly in person. You see, I'm fascinated by everything about heroes, you'll think I'm a... Izuku, with a big gleam of excitement in his eyes, would say, Are you really fascinated by heroes? Shia nodded her head. Izuku and the brown-haired girl started talking about various heroes, sometimes saying the same words at the same time and laughing a little. Izuku felt happy to be able to talk so openly about heroes with another person. Shia felt the same way. Without a doubt, anyone who saw them would think that they had been friends for a long time, since they had many things in common, so to speak. A certain rabbit was in her room changing her clothes to go out for a run, as she had told the green-haired boy. Once she was ready, she went down to where he was. Upon arriving, she saw Izuku and Shia laughing while sitting very close to each other. The rabbit came closer saying, I see you're done cleaning up, brat. Okay, go change, it's time to go for a run. Izuku, yeah, it's okay. The green-haired man left the room. Shia, you know, sister, I'm very happy that you sent the request to Izuku. I definitely have a lot of fun when I talk to him, he's a great guy. Whether it's a bet with Hawks or not, I'm happy. He is someone fun and willing to fulfill his goal to be the best hero too. She looked at Mirko saying, Since he arrived, I could notice how you have changed a little your way of being. Mirko, huh? What are you saying? I am still the same, nothing has changed in me, he said while looking to the side, trying to sound like always. She had just laughed a little, saying, Yes, yes, whatever you say, sister. She started to leave the dining room while laughing. Mirko, somewhat annoyed, said, What are you laughing at, sister? Don't run away from me and tell me, he said as he walked behind Shia. After about 5 to 6 minutes, Izuku was already putting on some sports clothes to go out for a run. He was wearing a thin jacket with a drawing of All Might on the back. The freckled boy went down to the first floor where the rabbit was waiting for him. Mirko, well, I see you're ready, brat. The rabbit was wearing red shorts and a white t-shirt with a half moon on her chest. Izuku looked at her for a second, remembering that he had seen her without clothes for just a few seconds before. The green-haired man lowered his gaze and was the first to leave. Shia and Mirko looked at each other in confusion. Mirko, okay sister, we'll be back in a while. Shia, yes, it's okay. Oh, and by the way, don't do anything bad to Izuku. Mirko laughed, saying, I don't promise you anything. After saying that, the rabbit left the building. She looked up at the sky, noticing how it was covered in gray clouds. Mirko, I hope it doesn't rain. She began to walk until she reached the green-haired man, who was trying to keep his thoughts calm. If it were Mineta who had seen Rumi in the shower, he would have undoubtedly died in peace, or he would have made an altar to who knows what god. Izuku doesn't want to become someone like Mineta or have thoughts of that kind. The green-haired man knew that he couldn't deny that he hadn't seen her, but it was so hard not to think about it when the rabbit's body and eyes were clearly beginning to creep into his thoughts. He was concentrating, so to speak. Mirko was already walking alongside him. The rabbit noticed that he was a bit strange, so she asked, Pervert-kun, is something wrong? Izuku, oh I. Hey, stop calling me that. Mirko just laughed a little, saying, And whose fault is it? Who was the one who wanted to see me without Aro? Mirko analyzed her words carefully, and remembered that moment. She blushed and looked away, saying, You know what, we better forget about that day. I promise not to call you that anymore if you promise not to see me naked again, okay? Izuku, that was an accident, it's not like I wanted to see you like that. Mirko had a sad look, his ears drooped a little, and he asked, So you don't find me attractive at all? You don't even think of me as a woman? At that question, Izuku blushed, saying, No, I never said that. Well, I think Mirko-san is very. He watched as Mirko had a mocking smile on his face as he said, Are you a brat? Izuku, nothing, forget it. I shouldn't have answered your questions, he replied, blushing quite a bit. Mirko just laughed out loud at the green-haired man while saying, You know I love seeing you blush, the clumsy way you behave is cute, he said while touching the freckled boy's cheek with the index finger of his left hand. Mirko, come on, tell me. Tell me. Very what? Perverted-kun, tell me. This was until they reached the road that was next to the beach. Mirko, okay, let's stretch our muscles a little and get started. The green-haired man nodded his head, and after about 5 to 7 minutes they had gone on long enough. Mirko, let's see if you can beat me, brat. They both started running, but the result was like the day before. Mirko ended up winning the race. Once again the green-haired man ended up on the ground, breathing heavily as he said, Ma. Tomorrow I'll beat you, you'll see, he said with difficulty. Mirko, whatever you say, brat, she said while sitting on the asphalt of the road. There was that beautiful smile of Rumi's again. Izuku again saw how she seemed to be having fun. Mirko, by the way, brat, what did that old man want this morning? Izuku, well, Gran Torino came to see me after seeing my fight at the festival. Mirko, I see. I found it strange that Gran Torino was in my office. Izuku just laughed awkwardly. A silence flooded the place, but it wasn't an awkward silence, it was a somewhat warm silence, so to speak. Mirko, okay, let's get going, brat. They both stood up and started walking back. The rabbit was carrying a bottle of water in her right hand, and she drank a little to hydrate herself. The green-haired man had forgotten to bring his own bottle. Mirko extended his hand to the green-haired man, saying, "Here, baby, you need to hydrate yourself a little." Izuku, quite nervous, rejected the offer, saying, "No thanks, I'm fine, and even if I wanted to, I couldn't do it." "Mirko, huh? Why don't you want to drink water?" he asked, tilting his head tenderly. Izuku, "Well, it would be a BB." Mirko, "Wow?" Izuku, "It would be an indirect kiss." Mirko just laughed, saying, "Come on, brat, do you really take something like that so seriously? Here, drink a little, don't be foolish. I don't care if it's an indirect kiss or not." Izuku, somewhat embarrassed, grabbed the bottle and began to drink. Mirko was looking to the side with her face very flushed because she did care a lot that it was an indirect kiss. She had wanted to seem cool by saying that those things didn't affect her, when the truth for her would be like her first kiss. "Izuku, thank you very much, Miss Mirko." Mirko, without looking at him, would say, "You are welcome." She noticed that the green-haired boy had left some water in the bottle. She looked sideways at the green-haired boy's lips and blushed as much as she could. When Izuku looked at her, she looked away, trying to change the topic and the atmosphere of the place. "Mirko, I bet this isn't the first time you've drunk from a girl's bottle, right?" Izuku, "Well, to tell the truth, it's my first time," he said, somewhat blushing. Mirko, "So I'm the first then?" Izuku, "Yes." Mirko wanted to play a joke on him, saying, "And tell me, how does it feel to have an indirect kiss with me?" She asked with laughter because she wanted to embarrass and shame the freckled boy. But her cheeks soon turned a tender pink upon hearing the freckled boy's response. Izuku, "Well, to tell the truth, I don't have anything good to highlight among the boys. I'm clumsy when talking to girls, but if I had to say how it felt, then I would say what? I'm happy to have been able to have an indirect kiss with a cute girl like you, Mirko-san. After all, what other chance would someone like me have of receiving an indirect kiss from a pretty girl?" A warm feeling hit the rabbit's chest, feeling her heart speed up a little at the green-haired boy's response. Izuku was a little blushing and nervous when he gave his answer. Mirko just looked to the side, saying, "I see, so that's how you feel, huh?" The rabbit had been the victim of her own joke as she ended up embarrassed and ashamed. "Mirko, you know sometimes you are insensitive, baka," he whispered tenderly. Unfortunately for the green-haired man, he did not hear such words. The rest of the way Mirko walked in complete silence while the green-haired man's words echoed in his head over and over again. They were passing through a small square in the city. In said square there were several boys and girls with their parents. Upon seeing Mirko, they ran towards her to ask for her autograph, since Mirko was currently trending due to the video that was circulating on the networks. Mirko looked at the children and looked away to see the green-haired boy, who gave him a warm smile. She knelt down to the children and began to give them autographs. The little boys and girls hugged the rabbit, thanking her. Mirko was surprised at first but slowly reciprocated the children's hugs. The children left the place happily. Some of them had taken photos with the rabbit. Izuku, seeing Mirko like that again, felt something warm in his chest. Little by little that rabbit was beginning to attract a new feeling for the green-haired boy. Mirko stood up. Her ears twitched slightly as she heard some murmurs from some men who were there. If the typical lustful words that were released on her worked body. She was about to say something when she felt the green-haired man's arms delicately take her by the waist. Mirko blushed, and when she was about to say something she saw how Izuku had put his jacket on her waist, covering the lower part of the bunny quite a bit. Izuku separated from her, saying, "Let's go, Mirko-san." The green-haired man grabbed her hand without caring who saw. Mirko didn't object, she just let herself be carried away by that warm moment, being held by the hand by a boy, being the first time something like that had happened to her. The rabbit could only see the serious look that the freckled man had. She knew why he had placed his jacket around her waist. She gave a slight smile, saying in a low voice, "Fool, if you continue like this I will. Why do you have to be so cool now, baka? But I can't deny that I'm happy." Chapter 13. This has to be a joke, right? The lowly Mirko appears. The freckled boy continued walking while holding Rumi's hand, who looked really beautiful, blushing. People looked at them because they saw that it was a somewhat tender scene. They walked like this for a couple more blocks until Mirko said, Izuku can walk alone. Izuku noticed that he was still holding Mirko's hand and he let go, saying, I'm sorry. This was silenced by Rumi's index finger, which rested on her lips. He could see how the rabbit had her gaze downcast. Mirko, don't just say. Let's keep walking, shall we? The rabbit's voice was warm and sweet. The freckled boy nodded his head. They both began to walk side by side. Mirko had his fingers intertwined behind his back. She looked tender like that. The freckled boy noticed how the rabbit had a slight smile on her face. On the way they met Sir Night Eye and Mirko, who was wearing his hero's suit. Well, these were patrolling that area. Mirko, seeing Izuku, approached him and with a big smile said, Izuku, how have you been? I see you're doing your internship with the teacher. Izuku with a big smile would say, Mirko-senpai, huh? Teacher? He asked, quite confused. Mirko with a big defiant smile would hit Mirko's chest, saying, How have you been, brat? It's been a while since I saw you. I see you're with Sir. Mirko, I've been well, teacher, and I see that you are feeling better than ever. If I stayed with Mr. Sir. The blonde looked at Izuku, saying, You see, Mirko-san was my teacher before. Mirko with a big smile would say, I still remember when this weakling came to my agency and asked me for a routine to strengthen his body. And look at him now, he's all beefy thanks to my weight training. Isn't that right, Mirko? Mirko, of course, the teacher's training is a great challenge, but her results never fail. Izuku, I didn't know anything about that, he would say in amazement. Mirko, how have you been, sir? Sir, with his usual serious look, would say, I've been fine, I see that. You have taken Midoriya Izuku for your internship. Coming from you, it's something unexpected, Mirko. Tell me, what happened? I've known you for a while and you've never taken on any students for internships. Mirko, I bet the teacher saw Izuku's potential, didn't she, teacher? Sir, do you call someone who breaks his bones because he can't control his power talented? Those words were a little cold and harsh. Sir, that's not talent, it's just being reckless, nothing more. Mirko, you don't know that. The rabbit's voice sounded quite firm, interrupting Sir and surprising Mirko and Izuku. Mirko, so what if he breaks his bones? I have seen heroes who broke a leg or a hug and did not want to continue fighting. They are pathetic, but I won't allow you to say those words about Izuku. Despite having broken his fingers and arm at the festival, he still fought through the pain. That's talent and determination to me. Not everyone would do that. My Izuku has everything it takes to be a hero, and I will train him to be the best. I'll make you eat your words, sir. The rabbit looked seriously at Sir, who only adjusted his glasses, saying, Well, I just hope that your words come true. Otherwise, my opinion of him will be the same. After saying that, he passed by the rabbit and Izuku, saying, Let's keep patrolling, Mirko, we have no time to waste. Mirko, yes, I'm coming, sir. Don't take Sir Izuku's words so seriously. I believe in you and so does the teacher. I know that you are in good hands. Please take care of her, yes? The green-haired man nodded his head. Mirko, see you, teacher. The blonde ran off to catch up with Sir. Mirko was turning his back on Izuku. The green-haired man was happy with the rabbit's words. Mirko turned to look at the green-haired boy. Izuku met a warm and tender gaze from the rabbit. She would say to him, Let's go, Izuku. Izuku, yes, it's okay. They began to walk again. The green-haired man noticed that this time she called him by his name. Izuku, thanks for defending. Mirko, if you say one more word, I'll hit you. Understood? Izuku, yes, understood, he said quite nervously. Mirko, I hope you can endure my training since I declared to Sir that I would make you the best hero, so. The green-haired man interrupted her, and with a smile said, I promise not to let you down, Mirko-san. I will give my best. Mirko saw those eyes full of determination and smiled slightly, saying, I know you won't do it, pervert. I say, Izuku. Meanwhile, with Mirio and Sir Night-Eye, they continued their patrol. At that, Sir spoke, saying, Mirio, did you notice anything different about Mirko? Mirio, well, to tell the truth, she. Sir, so you noticed it too, huh? With Izuku and Mirko, they had arrived at their agency. Upon entering, Shia as usual gave him a warm hug and a welcoming smile. Mirko, Izuku, go take a shower first. So then we went out to patrol, yes? Izuku nodded and walked away down the stairs. Shia noticed that her sister had the freckled man's jacket tied around her waist, so she asked, Sister, why are you wearing Izuku's jacket around your waist? Mirko remembered that moment and smiled slightly, saying, It's a secret. After saying that, the rabbit began to climb the stairs, leaving Shia in doubt. She made a cute pout, saying, Come on, tell me please. First you didn't want to tell me why you call Izuku a perverted kun. And now you don't want to tell me why you're wearing his jacket around your waist. You're mean to me, you know that, right? Mirko stopped dead, looking at her with a tender smile, saying, But do you still love me or not, sister? Shia, of course, you are my sister. I could never hate you or stop loving you. Mirko, I knew it, that's why I don't know what I would have done these years without you. I'll go prepare my hero suit to go out on patrol. The rabbit left the place, leaving Shia alone. Shia, hey, don't go. Don't try to evade my questions, sister. The freckled boy remembered the rabbit's words over and over again while he was bathing. My Izuku has everything it takes to be a hero, and I will train him to be the best. Izuku, she really knows how to provoke me into various things. After getting out of the bath, the green-haired boy put on his hero suit and told Mirko that the bathroom was now free for her to bathe. After about 30 to 35 minutes, we can see the green-haired boy and the rabbit patrolling the streets, each in their respective hero costumes. The day seemed to be calm, however, as they were walking, they heard an explosion from one of the banks closest to the area. Immediately, the green-haired boy and the rabbit began to run at high speed towards the place. When they were about to arrive, they saw two men running out of the bank with two large bags full of money. Izuku, there they are. One of the criminals had a thin build, and the other was like All Might's build, only less muscular. Those subjects, upon seeing Mirko approaching them, were greatly afraid and ran away, taking separate paths. Mirko, while running, would say, Well, Izuku, show me what you're capable of. Go and catch the big one, I'll go for the weak one. You can do it, right? Izuku nodded his head, and so the two split up, each with their own goal in mind. The green-haired boy entered through an alley and imitated Mirko, pushing himself off with great leaps. He concentrated one for all throughout his body, as Gran Torino had taught him. Having his target a few meters away, with a great impulse he reached his rival and was about to hit him. His rival turned around and with his large forearm hit the green-haired man hard, sending him flying to the side. Everything seemed to happen in slow motion before the green-haired man's eyes. Izuku, okay, do you see the green-haired guy who's about to hit the car? Who happens to be behind him? Well, that's me, and let me tell you that this will not be pretty at all. Well, this is where we started in the first chapter, remember? Okay, now that you're caught up with my story, let's continue. The green-haired man looked at the cameras of the place while he remained suspended in the air, saying, Action. After saying that, he brutally crashed into the car behind him. Izuku, ha. NNGH. Damn, that hurt. The green-haired man got up somewhat sore from the blow. He saw how his target was moving away quite quickly. The green-haired man extended his hand, activating the full cowl. He used his fingers like in the fight against Shoto, sending an air bullet hitting his rival squarely in the back. Izuku fortunately didn't break any bones. His rival, upon receiving that blow, crashed into another car and was instantly knocked unconscious. The green-haired man managed to stop him without any injuries involved. After a few seconds, the police arrived at the scene and arrested the subject. A few blocks away, a large explosion of pink smoke appeared, the green-haired man without hesitation went towards that place. Minutes before the explosion, the rabbit was chasing her target through the streets, and as she was about to catch the subject, she saw him stop and turn around, saying, "Let's see if you can save the little girl and her mother." That guy created a kind of pink fire in his right hand, and without thinking he threw it at a mother and her 6-year-old daughter who were on the side of the street. Mirko opened her eyes wide, and without hesitation she ran with all her might to save them. The rabbit stepped into the fire and took the full blow, creating a large curtain of pink smoke. The criminal took advantage of this and escaped as best he could. Currently Izuku had arrived at the place. The curtain of dust dispersed little by little. He saw how that thief escaped in the distance, so he assumed that Mirko had received the explosion. "Izuku, Mirko-san, are you okay?" The green-haired boy's eyes widened when he saw Mirko. Mirko, with a tender smile, would say, "Izuku." The people in the area looked at the scene in amazement. "Izuku, Mirko-san too." The green-haired boy was amazed to see before his eyes a Mirko who was only 9 years old. Mirko tilted his head to the side, looking at him tenderly. "Izuku, this has to be a joke, right?" Chapter 14. You're not going to leave, right? You're not going to leave me, right? The cute lowly version of Mirko would say. "What's wrong, Izuku-kun?" she asked as she cocked her head tenderly to the side. All the people who were there, upon seeing this scene, had a runny nose and said in unison, "How cute." The green-haired boy was no exception. Little Mirko walked up to the green-haired boy and hugged him while laughing tenderly. People wasted no time and started recording the scene. 20 minutes later, we can see Shia tenderly hugging lowly Rumi while saying, "You know, I wouldn't mind if she stayed like this forever. I mean, look at her, she's so cute. Her little bunny ears are adorable." "How cute." "Izuku, if you have reason." "Hey, we must do something to get things back to normal." Shia just laughed, saying, Yeah, hee, just kidding. Anyway, you told me that the hero Kamui caught the villain who did this to Rumi, right?" "Izuku, yes. But you see, when Kamui caught him, the villain used his own quirk on himself, turning into a child," he said with a drop of sweat on his head. "And well, now they are interrogating him to find out if Mirko will return to normal or not." They were talking a little far from Mirko so that the little girl couldn't hear. Mirko pouted cutely and approached the green-haired boy and hugged him tenderly, saying to Shia, "Sister, what are you keeping from Izuku?" This action surprised the green-haired boy and the brown-haired girl, who looked at the lowly Mirko, saying, "Nothing, Mirko, I was just asking what we could have for lunch." Mirko asked somewhat doubtfully, "Is that true, Izuku-kun?" The little girl's gaze was somewhat intimidating. The green-haired man swallowed and nodded his head. Mirko showed her a beautiful smile that would buy the heart of anyone who saw it. It would say, "I see. Izuku-kun, come on, let's go play for a while, okay?" she asked while making cute little eyes at him. Izuku, seeing that look, couldn't refuse and asked him what he wanted to play. Little Mirko would say, "To the caught ones? You first," he said as he started running up the stairs to the second floor. Well, when she was turned into a child, Mirko had the mentality of a child, so she behaved differently than her current form. "Izuku, hey Mirko-san, wait," he said as he went after the rabbit. She had just looked at them with a tender smile, saying, "Maybe this will be good for her." Meanwhile, at the UA Academy, more exactly in the direction of Director Nizu, all the teachers would be gathered. "Nizu, well, you already know the reason why we are here, right?" Everyone nodded slightly in agreement. "Nizu, well, that will save me time. As you already know, the first-year students, as well as those from Class A and B, are doing their internships with some hero agencies. As you may have already heard, this year Miss Mirko sent in an application to take a student for an internship. I know, this surprised many, but it's true. The young student who is with her is Izuku Midoriya from first year of Class 1A. As you may have seen on the news, the hero Mirko is trending for 2 videos that have circulated recently. The newest one was of what happened half an hour ago, to be exact. Well, in a chase of a criminal who had robbed one of the largest banks, who escaped along with his henchmen. Miss Mirko and young Midoriya were patrolling that area. Young Midoriya successfully captured one of them, while Mirko, after chasing the other, ended up being turned into a 9-year-old girl after having defended a mother and her daughter. Does anyone have anything to add? Midnight raised her hand saying, I have something to say. And I think we all think the same thing, little Rumi is very cute. Nizu, I can't argue anything against that logic. Everyone nodded at Midnight and her director's response. Nizu, well, the hero Kamui captured the criminal responsible for this, who used his own quirk on himself, turning himself into a child. The police are currently questioning him to see if Mirko will return to normal or not. Because of this, what will we do with young Midoriya, since he was under Miro's supervision? But given how the situation is, I think we should bring young Midoriya to the academy and see if he can go to another agency at least until Mirko returns to his real age. Otherwise young Midoriya would lose valuable days of training. Do you agree with me? Everyone nodded. Nizu, okay Aizawa, All Might, you guys will go with me to Mirko's agency for young Midoriya. Both heroes nodded slightly. Nizu, well, with this we conclude the meeting, you can each return to your personal tasks. Thank you for your time. In this way each teacher proceeded to withdraw in an orderly manner from the place, leaving only Aizawa, All Might and Director Nizu. Nizu, well, let's go find young Midoriya. Returning to Izuku and little Mirko, we can see a green-haired boy lying on the 4th floor while saying, she has a lot of energy. Mirko was about 2 meters away from him saying, come on Izuku, you don't have to catch me yet, he would say with great energy. The little girl ran to the 1st floor while the green-haired boy stood up and started walking to catch her. Despite being tired, he was happy because he could see how little Mirko smiled happily while they played. Upon reaching the 1st floor, the bunny met 3 people who were talking to Shia. These were Aizawa, All Might, and Principal Nizu. The bunny stood still to listen to what they were talking about when she felt a pair of hands grab her by the waist and lift her into the air. Izuku, I got you. This caught the attention of the others present. Izuku was surprised when he saw his principal and his 2 teachers there. He put Mirko down and approached him, asking, Director Nizu, Aizawa-sensei, All Might, what are you doing here? Nizu, good morning young Midoriya, you see, we came to take you back to the UA. At those words Izuku and Mirko opened their eyes wide. Izuku, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Aizawa, you see Midoriya, because of what happened with the hero Mirko and his current situation. She is not allowed to have you in her agency due to her current status, so you will return to the academy. There you will be able to choose another temporary agency while we sort out Mirko's situation. So far we have not been informed as to whether or not she will be able to return to her adult version. So go get your things. Izuku saw how Shia had a sad look. Izuku, but can't I stay here with Mirko-san? Nizu, I'm sorry young Midoriya, but given the situation there is no other way to keep you safe. Since Miss Mirko in her situation will not be able to take care of protecting him in case something happens. Please go get your things. Izuku, it's okay right away under. The green-haired boy was about to leave, but Mirko hugged him tightly and with a broken voice said, and please don't go. Don't leave me Izuku. The rabbit was shedding several tears that wet her cheeks. She looked at those present and said, because? Why do you want to take my Izuku? I don't want to. I don't want him to go, please no. Izuku tenderly hugged Mirko saying, please don't cry Mirko. Mirko, you're not going to leave, are you? The little girl looked at him with her crystallized eyes. You're not going to leave me, are you? Chapter 15. Your wall to overcome is All Might. Will Mirko have a wish? Please don't leave me. I don't want to. I refuse to lose you. Nizu, seeing such a scene, just gave a slight smile saying, Aizawa, if I remember correctly, all the agencies that were available ended up occupied, right? The rodent turned around looking at him with a slight smile. Aizawa turned around with his back to everyone saying, I think so, I guess we can't do anything else. Mizu, I see. If there is no other option. Young Midoriya, please relieve Miss Mirko in your care. If something were to happen, I know you will be able to handle it. In any case, you can contact us. Well, we're sorry to take up your time, Miss Shia and young Izuku. Please take care of little Rumi. We will now go and see if they were able to extract information from the person responsible for all this. We will keep you informed of what happens. The green-haired boy opened his eyes wide. Mirko wiped away his tears, showing a beautiful smile, saying, Thanks. Thanks for not taking my Izuku. Mizu and All Might smiled slightly. They said goodbye to everyone and left. Upon leaving, they got into a black car and headed to the police station. Mizu, while riding in the car, would say, This will be a secret between us, okay? All Might nodded his head. Aizawa was tucked into his sleeping bag, obviously sleeping. Mizu and All Might looked at him with a drop of sweat on their heads. All Might, Director, why did he do it? Mizu, I guess not even I can break that bond that formed between the two of them. I couldn't be at peace with myself knowing that I made a little girl cry. Namiri was right, she is cute. I wonder, what will things be like in the future? But it is better to live in the now and let the future be a mystery. Who knows? Maybe destiny will surprise us with something unique. Also, Gran Torino will go to the agency, so they will be fine. All Might, I see. Returning to Shia and Izuku, Shia was undoubtedly shocked by the scene she had seen. Mirko continued to hug the green-haired boy. Izuku had a slight smile, saying, Do you want to keep playing, Mirko-san? Mirko, with a big smile, would say, Yeah. And so the morning had passed for our green-haired boy. We can see how Izuku and Shia chased Rumi, who escaped from them, saying, I don't want to. Shia, come on Mirko, you have to eat your vegetables. Mirko, I don't like them. The scene was somewhat comical as they chased Mirko around the dining room while trying to get her to eat her vegetables, since they were having lunch. Yes, even though she was a child, she was still too fast for both of them. After an hour, we can see an angry Mirko sitting on the couch in the living room. Izuku, let's go, Mirko-san. How much longer are you going to continue without talking to me? Mirko, The little girl puffed out her cheeks tenderly as she crossed her arms and looked away so as not to see him. Shia was standing next to both of them, laughing at the scene. Izuku just gave a resigned sigh, saying, I give up. Mirko, Izuku traitor. Why did you take my sister's side to force me to eat the vegetables? Izuku, come on Mirko, you know that eating a lot of vegetables is good for the body and makes you stronger. Mirko ignored him again. Shia just laughed a little. Izuku just started walking out of the room. Rumi looked at him out of the corner of her eye and couldn't help but say, Aren't you going to keep insisting that I forgive you? Izuku, no, I've already given up. I'll go to my room to wait until Gran Torino comes to train me. The green-haired boy was about to leave when he was stopped by small hands that grabbed him tenderly, holding him still. The green-haired man slightly lowered his gaze, seeing Mirko, who was stopping him. She looked to the side, saying, I forgive you, but don't go, okay? Izuku just smiled slightly, saying, If I stay, will Mirko be happy? The little girl nodded her head tenderly. Izuku, then I won't leave. Tell me, do you want to sit on the couch and watch TV? Mirko nodded with a slight smile. Izuku sat next to Shia and little Mirko. The three of them watched TV for a long time until Shia and Mirko fell asleep. Shia fell asleep with her head resting on the green-haired boy's left shoulder, and little Mirko fell asleep hugging the green-haired boy's right arm without letting go. Izuku just smiled as he watched the two sleep tenderly, slowly separating himself from both of them, causing Rumi to hug Shia. The freckled boy went to his room and brought a blanket and covered them both. He went to the first floor and then saw his new teacher enter. Izuku, Gran Torino-san was waiting for you. Gran Torino gave a slight smile, saying, Are you ready to train, brat? Izuku, yes. After a few minutes we can see Gran Torino and Izuku on the second floor where the gym was. Gran Torino, well do it kid. Izuku, yes. The freckled man began to concentrate by making One for All flow throughout his body, causing the rays of One for All to come out of his body and collide with each other. Izuku in his thoughts would say, I must maintain control over One for All. I can't waste time. I must become stronger to protect those around me. Images of all his classmates passed through the green-haired man's mind. Momo, Mina, Uraraka, her mother Inko, Shia and Mirko's image. The memories he had made with her flashed through his mind. The green-haired man opened his eyes saying, One for all. Full cowl. This would be said in the same way. If I want to be like All Might then, I must bridge the gap between us. Gran Torino opened his eyes wide as he saw the great determination reflected in the green-haired man's eyes. But what shocked him the most was seeing something he had never seen before or had happened to Tashinori. This would say, 3 minutes? That's what you got to hit me with. Come on, future symbol of peace. Show me that you are capable of overcoming the great wall that will stand in your way. Show me that you can surpass All Might. Izuku, yes. The green-haired man launched himself at Gran Torino, who smiled widely. Meanwhile we can see All Might, Director Nizu in an interrogation room. In front of them was a table and a chair. In it sat the guy who had made Mirko a girl. The guy looked like an 11-year-old boy because he had used his quirk on himself to try to escape, but it was in vain. Nizu, you know the reason why we are here, don't you? That boy, seeing the imposing presence of All Might, swallowed and only limited himself to saying, They come to ask me how to return the rabbit to normal, right? If so, I'm sorry to say that this is a real problem because that doesn't depend on me, but on her. Nizu, please explain. Subject, you will see my quirk can turn a person into a child again. Each person will return to their normal age in a couple of weeks depending on the person, of course. If she doesn't get back to normal within 2 weeks, then she won't go back to normal unless her heart's desire is fulfilled. Nizu, wish? Subject, yes, you see, a heart's desire is something you once wanted to do with all your heart but were never able to accomplish. It could be anything in my case. I always wanted to see my mother again, since she abandoned me when I was 4 years old. I'm currently 22 years old and I couldn't see her again. That's my heart's desire. But I can go back to normal at any time, but sometimes I act like a child thinking that if my mother were to see me, she would know it was me. Well, if I'm in my adult version, I'm afraid that he won't recognize me. It's kind of silly, right? My wish, for some reason she left me. I'm not just bad. I had bad luck. That boy was shedding a couple of tears. He wiped them away saying, She will grow up to her adolescence, and if from then she does not return to normal, then it is because she has a heartfelt desire. If his wish comes true, then he can return to normal. Otherwise I can't tell you how long he could stay like this. Sorry, that's all I can help you with. Nizu, I see, thank you very much. All Might, could you leave the room for a moment? The blonde nodded and left. Chapter 16. The Heart's Desire. Part 01. We can see the green-haired man lying on the ground, unable to stand up, breathing heavily. Gran Torino was sitting next to him saying, You learn very quickly, boy. I was surprised you were able to hold One for All for more than 3 minutes. I must admit you are a clever boy. Izuku said as best he could. Gra. Thanks, Gran Torino-san. Gran Torino stood up saying, By the way, how is the rabbit girl? I already saw what happened on the news. Do you have any information on how to get it back to normal? Izuku sat down saying, No, we don't have any information yet. All Might along with Aizawa-sensei and Principal Nizu went to see if the culprit said something or not. Gran Torino, I see. Well, on the bright side, we'll have more time to train your control over One for All without her bothering us. Izuku, I guess. He saw how his new teacher stood up saying, Okay, come with me to the exit, boy. Izuku, huh? Is Gran Torino leaving already? Gran Torino, yeah, I got some business to take care of, kid. Izuku, I understand. The green-haired boy accompanied his teacher to the exit before leaving. Gran Torino turned around looking at him while saying, We'll see each other tomorrow, boy. Take care of yourself. Izuku, yes, thanks for everything, Gran Torino-san. Gran Torino smiled slightly and left the place, leaving the green-haired man alone on the ground floor. The freckled boy went up to his room. Passing through the living room, he saw how Mirko and Shia were still sleeping. He smiled slightly and went to his room. Izuku found some clothes, left them on his bed, and went to take a shower. While the water fell down his body, he remembered the memories he had made with Mirko before she became a child. The Mirko loli was undoubtedly very cute. It was a totally different version of the Mirko he knew, or rather the one he was getting to know. He wondered if Mirko had always been like this since she was little, or if at some point in her life her personality changed to the one she had now. After leaving the shower, the green-haired man went to his room. He got dressed, and while he was doing so he received a call from his mentor All Might. The green-haired man answered the call without hesitation. All Might, Shonen, sorry to bother you, but do you have time to come to the academy? We have information on Miss Mirko's condition. Izuku, yeah, I'm leaving now. All Might, understood, I'll wait for you here. After saying that, the call was cut off. The green-haired man left his room and saw that Shia and Mirko were still sleeping, so he left the building heading to the academy. After about 30 to 45 minutes he arrived because it was a bit far for him to get there. The green-haired man preferred not to take any transport and go on foot because he was not in a hurry. Upon arriving, he went to Director Nizu's office because they were waiting for him there. When he arrived, he knocked on the door asking permission to enter. Nizu, go ahead, young Midoriya. The green-haired man walked in and sat down looking at those present. All Might was in his slim form. Nizu, well, young Midoriya, as you already know, we have information about Miss Mirko's condition. You see, according to the words of the detainee, she will return to normal in 2 weeks, but... Izuku, but? Nizu, you see, during the first week she will be a child. In the second week she will grow to her teenage age. She will be approximately your age. However, if she does not become an adult again during the second week, it is because she has a heart's desire. Izuku, heart's desire? What does this refer to? The rodent went on to explain in more detail everything about the heart's desire. Izuku, I see, but... I wonder if Mirko-san will have a heart's desire. Nizu, well, we don't know that for sure. We can only wait for the weeks to go by to see what happens. So Gran Torino-san will be in charge of you, while you stay at Mirko's agency. By the way, young man, I have a very serious question for you. The rodent's gaze tensed the atmosphere. Izuku, yes, tell me. Nizu, you see, all the teachers agreed that little Rumi is cute. What do you think? All Might had a drop of sweat on his head as he thought it was a more serious question. Izuku, I agree with all the teachers. Mirko-san is adorable. All Might in his thoughts would say. You too, Shonen. I wonder how all this will end. By the way, Shonen, how is the training with GRA going? GRA. All Might was shaking so much that he couldn't complete his sentence. Nizu and the freckled boy would simultaneously say in their thoughts. He was left with trauma. Izuku, well, I learned a better way to better handle one for all. Nizu, that's good news, young man. Now recovery can get some rest. Izuku felt like he wanted to tell him something, so he asked. What do you mean by that, Director? Nizu, do your best, young man. Izuku, don't avoid the question, Director. Nizu just laughed a little. After finishing speaking, the green-haired man left in the east direction and headed towards the UA exit. Izuku was very thoughtful about the last words his director had told him. As he was walking, he came across a very curious senpai with light blue hair. Nijire smiled upon seeing the green-haired boy as she raised her hand greeting him by name. Izuku, senpai Heido, how have you been? Nijire, Heido? Just tell me Nijire, yes, you don't have to be so formal with me, Deku. Izuku, I'm sorry, senpai. Nijire, I heard you're at Mirko-san's agency. Nah. Tell me, what are your workouts like? Is it as the rumors say? How does he treat you? The light blue-haired girl began to ask him a ton of questions. Izuku was about to answer, but Nijire laughed, saying, I'm joking, Mirko already told me what Mirko-san is like. I know there are a lot of rumors about her, but I know they're false. But I was surprised to know that you're in her agency. Besides, she took out her cell phone, showing him the 2 videos of Mirko that were circulating on the networks, showing the current Mirko loli. Nijire, I can't stop looking at her, she looks so kawaii. By the way, you're already leaving for the agency, right? Izuku, oh yeah. The light blue-haired girl smiled tenderly, saying, Well then, let's walk together. They both left the academy. While walking, the green-haired boy was somewhat clumsy when talking to girls, but for some reason he could talk well with Nijire. He didn't get nervous or stumble when speaking. Nijire, so Tamaki messed up his attack and broke his arm. I asked him how it felt to break his arm. Well, I've never broken any bones, so I don't know how painful it would be. Nizuku, can you tell me how it feels? Izuku, oh sure, asked Deku. Nijire, but you broke your fingers in your fight against Endeavor's son. Am I right? Izuku, but you're right. They both started laughing a little. The green-haired man had an earphone in his right ear while he listened to music while walking next to the light blue-haired woman. Nijire, what music do you listen to, Izuku-kun? Izuku, you better listen to it with me, senpai. He gave her the other part of the headset. The light blue-haired girl placed it in her left ear as she walked on the right hand of the green-haired girl. Within minutes they were both walking while singing the lyrics of the song. Today is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe Thursday, I don't know why, but it's not raining in my eyes anymore, and maybe your memory will keep me alive. If exile doesn't want to send me straight to oblivion. After a while they both had to separate because they had to take different directions. Nijire, see you, Izuku-kun. The light blue-haired girl gave him a warm smile. Izuku, see you, senpai. The green-haired man returned to the agency and bought some things to cook for dinner. When he returned, Shia and Mirko were already awake. Little Rumi, seeing the green-haired boy, went and gave him a warm hug, saying, Where did you go, Izuku? When I woke up you were no longer there. Izuku, oh well, I went to buy some things for dinner. Mirko tenderly began to move his little nose, sniffing the green-haired boy's shirt. The little girl looked seriously at the green-haired boy, saying, Oh yes. You went shopping, didn't you? I assumed the person who helped you was a woman. Tell me, why don't you explain to me the reason for the woman's perfume on your shirt? Izuku, somewhat confused, sniffed his shirt, noticing a sweet aroma. He remembered that Nijire gave him a warm hug before saying goodbye. This one in his thoughts would say, It's Nijire-senpai's perfume. Mirko, well? He asked while crossing his arms and pouting cutely. Shia, it must be his mother Mirko's perfume. Before he left he told me that he would go see his mother. Clearly this was a lie. Mirko looked at the green-haired man asking, That's true? Izuku, somewhat nervous, replied, Why yes, it's true. Mirko hesitated for a second but then showed a slight smile, saying, It's okay, I know you wouldn't lie to me, Izuku. Shia, Mirko, go take a bath, okay? So then you can help me prepare dinner. What do you say? The little girl responded with a cheerful, yes, and started up the stairs. Izuku, thank you for helping me, Miss Sure. Shia looked at him, closing her eyes tenderly, and with a cold voice she would say, Tell me, why don't you explain to me the reason for the woman's perfume on your shirt? Izuku broke out in a cold sweat as he said, Shia-san, your expression is scary. After that scary moment for the green-haired boy, both he and little Mirko helped Shia prepare dinner. The moment was very nice and warm. They seemed like a family, so to speak. After finishing dinner, the green-haired man helped Shia pack her things. Mirko left the room and returned a few minutes later with a small book in his hands. He asked the freckled man if he could read it. Izuku looked at him, noticing that it was a story he could only say, Do you want me to read it to you? Rumi nodded tenderly. Izuku, can you wait a moment, Mirko-san? I'm going to help Shia wash the dishes now. Shia, go ahead, I'll take care of washing up after all, you helped me prepare dinner. The green-haired boy nodded his head and sat on the living room couch with Mirko and began to read the story to her. Without thinking, he stroked little Rumi's ears and she smiled tenderly. After finishing washing, Shia could see how both Izuku and Mirko had fallen asleep on the couch. Mirko tenderly hugged the green-haired boy while in his dreams he would say, "Don't leave my side, Izuku." The brown-haired girl could only smile slightly. She covered them with a blanket and went to her room. In this way a week had passed, a week in which the green-haired boy had trained hard with Gran Torino. Little Mirko encouraged the green-haired boy while she was sitting on his back while Izuku did push-ups. During that week the freckled boy had spent a lot of time pampering the tender Mirko, because neither he nor Shia could say no to so much tenderness. We can see the green-haired man waking up in his room. He would give a big yawn stretching his body. As Izuku left his room, he ran into a certain rabbit. "Izuku, I'm sorry." The green-haired boy's eyes opened wide when he saw a 16-year-old Rumi just like him. Yes, it was just as his director had told him. In one night he had grown so much. "Mirko, good morning, Izuku." "Izuku, good morning, Mirko-san." They both stared into each other's eyes. Mirko, I. Chapter 17, Izuku's date? Mirko's jealousy? Izuku, seeing how Mirko had a slight blush on her cheeks, blushed a little, saying, "You." "Mirko, I feel." Izuku, somewhat nervous, thought only one thing upon hearing those words. He was quite nervous and blushing and would say, "You feel something, B." "Mirko, I'm sorry I let that villain turn me into a teenager." Izuku, with a drop of sweat on his head and somewhat disappointed, would say, "Yes, just what I was thinking." "Huh, teenager?" "Mirko, yes, yesterday when we were out on patrol he attacked a mother and her daughter and I got in his way, and after that I don't remember anything. I just woke up in my bed and when I looked in the mirror I saw that I was a teenager." Mirko lowered her head, somewhat annoyed at herself for not having done a better job. Izuku smiled slightly, remembering Nisa's words. "As she grows up, she will lose memories of when she was a child and when she was a teenager. For her, those 2 weeks will be as if they had never happened." Izuku in his thoughts would say, "You were right, director, she doesn't remember anything about when she was a child, but should I tell her everything? Or maybe let this week pass, at the end of it all she will forget everything that happened. Is this okay?" The freckled boy was brought out of his thoughts upon hearing Mirko's words. "Mirko, brat, are you there?" The green-haired boy watched as the rabbit passed her hand in front of him. Izuku, oh yeah, sorry I got lost in my thoughts. "Hey, did you call me a brat?" Mirko, yeah, didn't you hear me? Pervert-kun. Mirko smirked, saying, What were you thinking? I hope you didn't imagine me in school clothes now that I'm your age, right?" she asked mischievously. Izuku, oh, of course not. Mirko just laughed, saying, "Why did you get so nervous? Did you even weigh that much? Perverted-kun." He spelled the last bit in a tender yet somewhat playful way. Izuku in his thoughts would say, "I have no doubts anymore, she changed her personality when she was a teenager." The green-haired man sighed resignedly. Mirko smiled at him, saying, "I'll never get tired of bothering you, brat. Even though I'm a teenager now, I'm still me." She smiled slightly, but that simple smile caused a warm feeling in the green-haired man's chest. He smiled kindly and said, "You're right, I don't want you to change, I love you just the way you are, Mirko-san." After saying this, the green-haired boy turned around and went to the bathroom, not knowing that behind him Mirko had a slight blush on his cheeks as those words increasingly hit the rabbit's emotions harder and harder. Mirko whispered in a low voice, "How much longer do you intend to make me feel this way? Baka." The bunny turned around and walked down the stairs to the 4th floor, where Shia was preparing breakfast with a beautiful smile on her face. She turned around when she heard a very happy voice that said to her, "Good morning, sister." The brown-haired girl turned around and found Rumi as a teenager. Shia, wow, you've really grown up suddenly, sister. Mirko tilted his head, quite confused, asking, What do you mean I grew up a lot? Shia, I see that what Izuku told me turned out to be true. I wonder if I should tell you or not? Mirko grabbed one of Shia's cheeks, saying, Come on, tell me, sister. The bunny's face was one that would intimidate even All Might himself. Shia, yes, I will tell you, please calm down, sister. After a few seconds we can see Mirko and Shia sitting on the sofa in the living room. Mirko, what? Has it really been a week? Shia, I told you to take it easy, sister. Yes, well, not everything was bad, you looked very cute as a child. Mirko, does that mean that Izuku saw me as a child? Shia, yes, to tell the truth, throughout this past week you have been very attached to him. You even hugged him tightly when Principal Nizu and All Might came to take him away because of your situation. I still remember your words well, sister. Because? Why do you want to take my Izuku? I don't want to. I don't want him to go, please don't. Shia imitated Mirko's voice as a child. Shia, ahem, and those were your words, sister. Mirko's face was completely red as she blew smoke out of her head from how embarrassed she was. Shia, I was surprised when you said, my Izuku. I certainly never thought that you. Mirko, shut up, sister. Don't say anything else. Shia just laughed as he saw his sister completely blushing. Mirko in his thoughts would say, How could I say something so embarrassing? I have to do something with all these feelings. She was brought out of her thoughts when she saw that Izuku was touching her forehead very close to her face. Izuku, Shia-san, Mirko has a fever. Her face is hot, we must take her to the knee. Mirko, don't touch me, baka. The rabbit grabbed him by the arm and threw him hard to the ground. Izuku, Mirko, why you earned it, baka? Shia, I think we should call a doctor now, he said while seeing that the green-haired boy didn't move. After about 20 minutes we can see our three protagonists having breakfast. A certain green-haired boy was standing far away from the rabbit. Shia only had a drop of sweat on his head, saying, Come on, Izuku-kun, come sit with us. Izuku, no, I'm not crazy about sitting next to Mirko. I don't want to end up on the floor again. Mirko, come on, brat, it was your fault for touching me, and I already apologized. Izuku, my fault? I was just worrying about you. You also apologized because Shia-san asked you to. Mirko, but excuse me, right? Izuku, you know, I'm seriously thinking about going to see the guy who made you a girl and ask him to turn you back into a girl. At least Mirko Loli didn't hit me, she did love me. Shia, you're right, you were her Izuku. Mirko, stop it, both of you, stop saying embarrassing things. Shia, well Izuku, you told me you were going out today, right? Izuku, oh yeah. Mirko, I bet he's going to buy some All Might merchandise. You know, some geeky stuff, he said with a laugh. Izuku, I'm not going on a date with a friend from the academy at all. At those words Mirko stopped laughing and opened his eyes slightly, feeling something bothering him. Shia, I see. A friend, huh? Could it be that it is your Izuku, it's a friend, Shia-san. Shia just laughed because he was bothering the green-haired boy. Izuku stood up and thanked for the breakfast, and before leaving he said, I'll be back in a while, Shia-san. Shia, I wish you the best, Izuku-kun. The green-haired man left the room and started down the stairs. Mirko, without saying anything, got up and quickly went to her room, and in a matter of seconds she was already dressed in casual clothes to go out. Shia, and those clothes, sister? Are you leaving? Mirko, you see, I just remembered Hawks and thought about going to see him. It's been days since I last saw him. Well, I'll be back in a little while, bye sister. After saying that, Mirko left the place in a bit of a hurry. Shia just smiled slightly, saying, I see that you still can't be honest with yourself, sister. Chapter 18, You like Izuku? Mirko left her agency and quickly began to look everywhere trying to find the green-haired boy. Turning a corner, the rabbit could see a green, curly head of hair that she knew perfectly well. Without wasting time, she began to follow the green-haired man. While doing so, she asked herself, "Who is that girl he's going to meet? He said she's just a friend, but what if he lied?" A faint pain hit the rabbit's chest, and without knowing why, her own thoughts hurt. She shook her head, saying, "Anyway, he's under my care, so I just follow him around to make sure nothing bad happens to him. Yeah, that's all. It's not like I mind him dating a girl, right?" The rabbit tried to justify herself with that argument. She used to avoid admitting that she felt that emotion known as jealousy. Mirko, as he walked, couldn't stop looking at the green-haired boy's hair, remembering all the nice words he had said to him. "I don't want you to change. I love you just the way you are, Mirko-san. I think Mirko-san is very cute. I like Mirko-san's ears. I will run as many times as necessary to see you smile again." The memory of when he took her hand came to mind, bringing out a slight blush on Mirko's cheeks. Her heart had accelerated just remembering that moment. Her crimson eyes fell on the green-haired man's hand. Yes, even though she didn't admit it openly, she wanted to feel the green-haired man's hand on hers again. Mirko at that moment ignored everything around him. His eyes were focused solely on that green-haired boy. The green-haired man, while he was walking, felt that he was being stared at from behind, and on more than one occasion he turned around to see that there was no one following him. "Izuku, it must be my imagination, I guess." While he walked, he closed his eyes for a brief second, thinking of the image of Mirko with a tender smile on his face. The freckled boy blushed slightly as he was clearly aware that he had begun to feel an attraction towards the rabbit, if a feeling for her had been born in him. After a few minutes, the green-haired man arrived at the center of the city. Under a tree, sitting on a bench, was a certain dark-skinned girl in casual clothes, but at first glance she looked really beautiful. Momo was waiting for the green-haired boy. In her thoughts she would say, "Was I right to let my hair down? Will I look pretty for him?" The brunette looked up, seeing how a few meters away from her a certain green-haired man was walking towards her. A beautiful smile appeared on Momo's face. Without thinking, she got up from the bench and went directly to the green-haired boy and threw herself at him, giving him a warm hug that took the freckled boy by surprise. "Momo, you finally arrived, Baka." The brunette rested her head on the green-haired man's shoulder. Izuku reciprocated his friend's hug, saying, "I'm sorry if I made you wait so long." Momo separated from him, saying, "If you want to get points with me, for making me wait, you get 10 points out of 100. The brunette just laughed lightly. Izuku, seeing her smile, knew that she would always be the same with him, because Momo only showed that side of herself with the green-haired man. "Momo, you have the nerve to ask me out and leave me waiting." "Izuku, but the one who asked me out was you." Momo, faced with her friend's response, made a cute pout, saying, "That is not the correct answer that a girl wants to hear on a date. 10 points. "Izuku, but..." Momo took him by the right arm, intertwining it with her left arm, standing next to the green-haired boy, and with a slight blush said, "Please take care of me, it's our date." The green-haired man blushed slightly at having the brunette so close to him, even more so with their bodies in contact with each other. A certain rabbit was watching all this hidden. Mirko had a feeling of sadness and annoyance at the same time. In a low voice he would say, "I knew she and he were dating." Momo and Izuku started walking. The morning was cloudy, threatening to rain. As they walked, they talked about how their internships were going. They both entered a small cafe mostly frequented by couples. They both sat at a table together. Mirko had followed them at all times. When he saw them enter the cafeteria, Mirko stopped because he realized that he did not have money with him to enter and be able to watch them. "Mirko, damn, I forgot to bring money." At that point she heard some words in her right ear. "Wow, it seems like my eyes are stuck in the past, because I'm seeing a tender, cute, and young Rumi. That for some reason he is following a couple." Mirko turned around to see Hawks, who was smiling mockingly at him. "Mirko, what are you doing here, Hawks?" "Hawks, I'm happy to see you too, Rumi. And answering your question, this is my favorite coffee shop." They have delicious sweet breads dipped in chocolate. I always come here for breakfast in my free time. And apparently you are following Izuku and the young Yaoyorozu-san. Am I wrong? Mirko looked away saying, It's not what you think. Izuku is under my care, so I follow him just to see that nothing bad happens to him, that's all. Hawks, message received. He laughed because it was the first time he saw his friend nervous. Hawks, come on, let's go in together. If you stay here, you won't be able to keep an eye on him, right? I'm inviting, so let's go. He began to walk into the place, while the rabbit followed him, both entering together. Momo and Izuku were talking, waiting for their order. The brunette had her eyes towards the entrance door, and when she saw Hawks enter with a teenager, Mirko was surprised, saying, Wow, Mirko-san certainly looks very cute at that age. Izuku turned his gaze, seeing how Mirko and Hawks both sat together at a table. Seeing that scene caused a small pain in his chest. Momo, wow, I would have liked to see little Mirko in person. I was only able to see her through the video that circulated on social media. Don't tell me, she must have been very sweet, right? Izuku, yes, it was. To tell the truth, during that week she seemed like another person. Without a doubt, little Mirko was tender and very energetic, he said, letting out a small laugh. Mirko from her table watched as Izuku and Momo smiled together. Hawks, seeing how her friend kept looking at the green-haired man, knew what was happening. Hawks, Mirko, answer me this honestly. To you? Do you like Izuku? Mirko, hearing that question, felt her emotions hit her hard. Chapter 19. You really want to kiss me? Hawks looked at his friend with a slight smile. The rabbit, at that question that caught her off guard, couldn't help but hide the slight blush that appeared on her cheeks. Mirko wanted to show his usual serious face, but inside he was a chaos of nerves, so much that he couldn't order the words to respond to his partner. Hawks, seeing her a little nervous, smiled slightly. He got up from his place and the rabbit looked at him somewhat confused. But her confusion was overshadowed by a great invasion of nerves that hit her when she saw her friend head to the table where Izuku was. Hawks approached the couple with a big smile and his left hand raised and said, Good morning, guys, how are you? I'm surprised to see them in my favorite coffee shop. Momo got a little nervous because Hawks was a hero who was in the top 10. Momo, Hawks and us. Hawks, calm down, lady, there's no need to be so formal. Just tell me, Hawks, you're the same boy who breaks his bones. Izuku, with a drop of sweat on his head, would say, I think everyone knows me for breaking bones. Momo just let out a tender laugh. Hawks, just kidding, you're Izuku Midoriya, your hero name is Deku, right? Izuku, yes, how do you know that about me? Hawks, well, I've been watching you, boy, you have great potential. By the way, I see that you are on a date. Wow, you certainly make a cute couple. Momo blushed slightly upon hearing these words, saying, Are you serious? Hawks, of course, you're very lucky, boy. Miss Yaoyorozu is very pretty, you have to take care of her. Izuku was a little nervous. Mirko had clearly heard her friend's words and was undoubtedly upset by that comment. Hawks saw how she was attentive to his words, since he was watching her sideways. Momo, with a slight blush and in a low voice, said, He and I are just friends. Hawks could clearly hear her saying, What a shame, but if you keep this up you'll soon have him in love with you, he whispered in the black-haired girl's ear. Momo blushed more noticeably than before, and as best she could she said, Are you and Miss Mirko on a date too? At that question the green-haired man was afraid to hear Hawks' answer. Hawks saw the slight reaction of the green-haired man and gave a slight smile, saying, Yes, she and I are on a date. We had planned it beforehand, but we weren't going to cancel it just because she's now the age of a teenager. Mirko would say in a low voice. What are you saying, Hawks? She could clearly hear Hawks' conversation with the couple. Hawks, how about she and I sit down with you guys so we can get to know each other better? What do you say? The green-haired man was about to answer when the brunette interrupted him, saying, Of course, there's no problem for us, right, Izuku? She looked at her green-haired friend with a tender look. Izuku, oh, of course not, Momo. Hawks, cool, you guys are really cool. Momo got up from her place and sat next to the green-haired man. Hawks sat where Momo was before, and he motioned for Rumi to come with them. Mirko, having no other option, approached somewhat nervous on the inside, while on the outside she tried to maintain a calm and serene attitude. The rabbit's crimson eyes met those emerald eyes that caused several emotions in his chest. The two looked at each other for a few seconds but slightly looked away from each other. Mirko, what a coincidence to see you here, Brad, he said with a mocking smile. Hawks in his thoughts would say, coincidence? But you were following him the whole time. Wow, you still can't be honest with yourself. Momo, it's a pleasure to meet you in person, Miss Mirko-san. The brunette was very excited to meet the rabbit. Mirko, oh, anyway, it's a pleasure to meet this geek's girlfriend, he said while pulling the green-haired boy's cheek. Izuku, ouch, Mirko-san, that hurts. He was able to see her more closely, noticing that the smile she was showing was forced. Yes, the attitude she was showing was not the same as always. Mirko stopped bothering him, saying, sorry if Hawks and I bothered you guys on your date. Momo, oh, not at all, they don't bother you. To be honest, being able to be in the company of 2 top 10 heroes is something exciting. Mirko, I see, but now I'm this age, I'm not the hero who is in the top 10. I'm just a teenager like you now. Momo, but still, you're cute, Mirko-san. My Izu. The brunette blushed at what she was about to say. She made a slight fake cough, saying, I say Izuku told me a lot about you through messages. At those words Mirko opened her eyes slightly, feeling happy to know that Izuku was talking about her. She looked away to the side with a slight blush, asking, and what did he tell you about me? Momo, well, he told me how incredible your training sessions are, that they leave him exhausted but that you are very good at teaching him things, that he has a lot of fun being at your agency, among other things. Izuku, somewhat embarrassed, would say. And don't say anything else, Momo-san. Mirko, hearing what the green-haired boy was saying about her, became very happy. She gave a slight smile and said, thank you? Momo, huh? Why do you thank me, Miss Mirko? Mirko, well, for telling me what the brat tells you about me. Izuku could see that smile that the rabbit showed, noticing that it was a real smile and not a fake one. Momo, I didn't know you and Hawks-san had this kind of relationship, I mean dating and stuff. Mirko was about to answer but Hawks hugged her, saying, well, it's difficult to get her out on a date, you know, but we're trying, right, Mirko-san? The green-haired boy, seeing how Hawks hugged Rumi, was undoubtedly a little upset. Such a reaction did not go unnoticed by Hawks, who wanted to see how much Izuku could endure repressing his jealousy. Mirko had a tick on her left eyebrow from Hawks' hug. She saw how Momo looked at them waiting for an answer. The rabbit gave Hawks a slight nudge without the others seeing her, she would say. Well, just for today I decided to go out with Hawks. Hawks had a fake smile as he was enduring the pain. He separated from Mirko, saying, it's hard not to fall in love with her. This phrase surprised those present and embarrassed Mirko a little. Izuku looked away somewhat upset by those words. He got up from his place, saying, I'm going to the bathroom, I'll be right back. Momo nodded her head. The rabbit watched as the green-haired boy disappeared down the small hallway in the cafeteria that led to the bathrooms. At that moment the waitress arrived with everyone's orders. Hawks had ordered the famous submarine with sweetbreads that he liked so much. He accidentally and purposely flipped a bit of his order onto the bunny's shirt, saying, oh, I'm sorry, Mirko. Let me dry you. He had some napkins in his hands but stopped, saying, here, you better go dry your shirt in the bathroom. If I touch you, you'll hit me. The rabbit understood her friend's intention and stood up from her place, pretending to be upset, saying, TCH, when I come back I'll hit you, Hawks. The rabbit went to the bathroom with a slight smile. Hawks laughed a little, saying, I'm a little clumsy sometimes. Momo, you don't have to worry too much. Sometimes I'm a little clumsy too when I'm with the person I like. Hawks, with a slight smile, said, you really are in love with the freckled one, right? I see you still haven't told him how you feel. Well, I wish you luck, Yayorosa-san. Momo, with a tender smile, said, Thank you. Before reaching the women's bathroom, Mirko ran into the green-haired man. They both looked into each other's eyes and said at the same time, "Hello?" They both looked away in sadness. Izuku remembered the words Hawks had said. It's hard not to fall in love with her. He looked rather sad when both she and he had confirmed that they were on a date. Izuku, I didn't know Mirko-san and Hawks were dating. I'm happy for you. Mirko heard those words and they hurt him a little, he would say. I didn't know you and that girl were dating either. You certainly looked very happy with her, he said somewhat sadly. But I'm happy for you, geek. You have a very pretty girlfriend, congratulations. Izuku interrupted her saying. She's just my friend and nothing more. Mirko, well, it doesn't seem like it. You looked very happy when she hugged you. Izuku looked at her saying. How do you know she hugged me? Mirko got carried away and said something he shouldn't have. She was a bit nervous and said. Well, I guess if she hugs you, you should be happy, right? Izuku, it's just a hug. I told you she's just a friend. Mirko, yes, of course, whatever you say, geek, you don't have to lie to me. Izuku to me. I like you? Mirko opened her eyes wide upon hearing such words, and with a slight blush she asked. What do you mean by that? Izuku, I'm sorry I expressed myself badly. What I meant was that I like someone else. I only see Momo as a friend. For some reason those words calmed the rabbit. Izuku saw how Mirko had his shirt stained. He would say. Let me help you. The green-haired man took the napkins that Mirko had in his hands. The green-haired man bent down a little and began to dry Mirko's shirt. Mirko only had a slight blush. Her heart had accelerated a little, because once again that green-haired boy was being very tender with her. The green-haired man heard a light whisper from Mirko. Hawks and I are just friends and nothing more. Izuku, I see. For some reason he smiled slightly, feeling how those words calmed his emotions. Izuku, okay, well, it's not completely dry but it's all I can do. This one and Mirko were face to face. Mirko with a tender look said. Thanks, Izuku. The green-haired boy blushed at those words. Mirko moved even closer to him, their hands were brushing against each other's. Their fingers lightly touched each other's hand. Mirko, so you and she didn't kiss, right? Izuku, no, I already told you or not. The closest I got to a real kiss was the indirect kiss we gave each other. Mirko looked down with a slight blush and very happy. Izuku and Mirko slowly intertwined their fingers in a tender hold, both of them blushing. Mirko, still with his gaze down, asked. And you? Don't you really want to kiss me? She looked up, looking into his eyes with a beautiful blush. Chapter 20. Kiss me, Izuku. Izuku, Mirko-san, do you hear me, Mirko-san? He said while moving his hand in front of the rabbit's face. Mirko blinked slightly, bringing her out of her thoughts, as she had imagined that scene from a moment ago. Blushing slightly at what she had imagined, somewhat nervously she replied. Yeah, what's wrong? Izuku, I told you it's not completely dry but that's all I can do. He said while pointing to his stained shirt. Mirko, well thank you very much, be brat. Izuku touched her forehead with his hand and asked. Are you okay? It's just that you're a little red. Mirko, feeling the green-haired man's hand on his skin, exploded, throwing steam out of his head. She was somewhat nervous and replied. Why yes, I am fine, brat. Izuku doubtfully believed him. He removed his hand from Mirko's forehead saying. Well, I'd better get back to Momo. He passed by the rabbit, and she felt in her chest a sensation of wanting to stop him so that he could stay with her. Without thinking, she turned around and grabbed his hand. With her gaze down, she asked. See, can we stay here a little longer, just the two of us? Izuku blushed at that question, remembering the words the rabbit had said to Sir Night Eye. This one, somewhat nervous, answered. Oh, of course, after all you said that I am your Izuku, right? Mirko with a big blush nodded her head. Izuku approached her saying in a whisper. So, you are my Mirko. Rumi smiled slightly at those words and said. You do have some guts to tell me that, but... If you say so, then I'll let it go. She raised her gaze, looking into his eyes. Izuku wrapped his arms around her in a warm hug, saying, I hugged you without thinking, I'm sorry. Mirko snuggled into his arms, saying, Be thankful that it's me, so this time I'll forgive you, but hold me a little longer. They could both smell each other's scent, but neither wanted to separate from that hug. Mirko felt his heart beating faster than usual, but he was happy to be able to live that moment with the freckled boy. She hugged him with more affection, saying in her thoughts, Yes, Hawks, I can no longer deny that I like Izuku. The rabbit had a slight blush on her cheeks. They slowly separated, remaining centimeters away from each other's faces. They couldn't stop looking into each other's eyes, their hands slowly intertwined in a tender embrace. Without saying a single word, they both slowly approached each other's lips. Yes, they were both so close that they could feel each other's breathing. Mirko slowly closed his eyes, whispering, Kiss me, Izuku. Izuku was rubbing the rabbit's lips. Mirko felt a great warmth and happiness when he felt the freckled boy's lips make contact with his own. Rumi tightened the grip on her hands in response to the kiss. The couple was blushing a lot, but neither of them wanted to separate from that kiss. Little by little, that tender kiss turned into a kiss full of love, as the green-haired man delicately took her by the waist, holding her against his body. Mirko slowly raised her hands, wrapping them around the freckled boy's neck, while she kissed him with more passion. She was standing on her tiptoes to kiss him well, since Izuku was a little taller than her. Both had to separate due to lack of air. The couple supported their heads with each other's. Izuku, we better get back to the others. Mirko gave her a short kiss, saying, For being your first kiss, it wasn't bad, perverted kun. She smiled tenderly at him, saying, Come on. The couple began to walk back, with the difference that now they were both walking hand in hand. Mirko was certainly happy as he walked. With his slight blush, he said in a low voice, I gave you my first kiss, Baka. Izuku, did you say something, Mirko-san? Mirko, nothing, but I would like you to tell me my name, yes. Izuku, blushing a little, would say, Okay, Arumi. Returning to Momo and Hawks, the brunette would say, Izuku-kun is already taking too long. Hawks didn't say anything because he thought that Mirko and he might have finally accepted their feelings for each other. Momo calmed down when she saw the green-haired boy coming towards her with the rabbit. Both of them had let go of each other's hands before leaving that hallway. The freckled man sat down, saying, Sorry for the delay. Momo, don't pass Izuku-kun. Hawks saw that the rabbit had a slight blush. He smiled slightly, saying, I'm sorry about your shirt, Mirko. Mirko, without looking at him, said, Nothing happened. In a low voice he would say, Thanks, Hawks. Hawks heard her saying, You are welcome. Hawks started talking about various things to create a warm atmosphere while they enjoyed their orders. Izuku in his thoughts would say, I kissed her, but her lips were warm and soft. Rumi in his thoughts would say, I kissed him, but her lips were warm and soft. Chapter 21. Do you really want to forget everything? Both in their thoughts at the same time would say, Wanna always be by your side. The couple looked into each other's eyes for a brief second and gave each other a warm smile, a smile that was accompanied by a slight blush on both of their parts. After finishing their orders, they continued talking for a while longer. Izuku got up to pay the bill, but Hawk stopped him and with a smile said, I'll pay everyone's bill, boy, so don't worry. Momo, are you sure, Hawks-san? We do not want to abuse your kindness. Hawks, yes, I'm sure, and we interrupted their date, so it's the least I can do. Momo, not at all, this was a very nice day. I was able to get to know a little more about Mirko-san and you. The brunette showed a warm smile. Hawk saw her. He just closed his eyes, and in his thoughts he would say, Damn, I feel guilty for her. She is so kind, and she is after a heart that already has an owner. I'm sorry, Yaoyorozu-san. Mirko looked at Hawks, asking, Are you okay, Hawks? I notice you're a little unwell. Does something hurt? Momo asked the same thing too. Hawks, oh, it's nothing, it's just guilt. This last thing he said in a low voice. After saying that, he got up from his seat and went to pay the bill to clear his feelings of guilt. Mirko and Momo started talking a little. The green-haired boy took out his cell phone and started checking the messages he had. He had several messages from Mina, Kirishima, Todoroki and his other companions. Since they had created a chat group where everyone from Class 1A was, through that group they told each other how each one was doing in their internships and things like that. The green-haired boy laughed lightly at the messages his pink-haired friend was sending him. He responded and put his phone away. When he looked up he could see Momo and Mirko standing next to him, and watching him send messages to the pink-haired girl. Izuku, what's wrong? Why do they have that murderous aura? He asked somewhat nervously. Momo, any Izuku-kun, tell me you have more fun talking to Mina than to me, right? I'm happy for you too, she said, clearly jealous. Mirko, Nemikoso, who is she? Why do you get happy with their messages? Perhaps. Do you have feelings for her? Both girls looked at the green-haired boy jealously. Hawks just arrived to save him as he saw how both of them were about to interrogate him to death. Izuku thanked Hawks for saving him. Hawks, you're welcome, kid, but what did you do to make them mad at you? He asked while looking at Mirko and the brunette, who had a cute pout, a sign that they were upset. This one in his thoughts would say. Although looking at them closely, they both look very cute and angry. If I hadn't arrived in time, you would be under the ground, boy. Izuku, well, I just answered a friend's messages and for some reason they got angry. Hawks, I see. Likewise in his thoughts he said to himself. They are clearly jealous. Although this is the first time I've seen Rumi like that, since she's never shown interest in any boy before, I guess. You are special, boy, you certainly make a nice couple. Anyway, the guilt will follow me until my death. I'm sorry, Miss Yayorozu. After a few minutes Momo received a message from Kendo-san. Since they were both in the same agency, the orange-haired girl sent her a message to inform her that she had to return to the agency because they had a patrol job. The brunette, somewhat disappointed at not being able to continue with her date, sighed with disappointment. The four of them left the premises. Momo told Izuku that he had to return to the agency somewhat sad. Izuku gave him a kind smile saying, Don't be sad, we can go out another day, Momo-san. Momo, are you serious? Izuku, of course. Momo was happy about those words, but to annoy him she said, Hey! You're comforting me to score points with me. Gomen nasai, but I only see you as a friend. Izuku had a drop of sweat on his head saying, I was already expecting that answer from you. He couldn't finish speaking as he was surprised by Momo's sudden action. Mirko became quite jealous when she saw how the brunette leaned over to the green-haired man, giving him a kiss on his cheek almost close to his lips. Izuku had a slight blush on his cheeks, as did Momo, who tenderly separated from him saying, But I've realized that now it's hard for me to see you as just a friend because I can't stop thinking about you, Izuku-kun. Momo was undoubtedly blushing a lot at his words. She turned around and looked at Hawks and Mirko saying, It was so much fun talking to you. I have to go now. Goodbye, Miss Mirko and Hawks-san. Hawks, Miss Yayorozu-san, I will accompany you to your agency since I have to discuss some things with your hero in charge. I will also feel more at ease knowing that he will arrive safely. The brunette nodded her head and looked at Izuku saying, The next time we go out I will tell you my true feelings, Izuku. After saying that, the brunette turned around and started walking, leaving Izuku speechless and very flushed. Hawks walked past Izuku and said in his left ear, You have a long road home ahead of you, good luck, boy. After saying that, Hawks walked away alongside the brunette. Izuku watched them walk away little by little. Mirko just started walking back home without saying anything to Izuku. The green-haired man noticed this and began to walk to catch up with her. He saw how the rabbit walked silently and with her gaze down. Rumi was lost in her thoughts and said to herself, Why am I so upset? After all, she and he would make a nice couple. They can be happy without any problem, but I will only be at this age for this week, after which I will return to my current age. I know better than anyone that a relationship with him could not be possible because of our age. What would people think of us? They certainly wouldn't approve of such a relationship. The best thing would be to forget about these feelings and that kiss we gave each other. After all, I'm sure he just went with the flow of the moment, and nothing more. Mirko didn't hear the green-haired man talking to her. She was taken out of her thoughts when she felt the green-haired man's hand on hers. Mirko looked at him slightly, noticing how Izuku had a worried look. Izuku, Rumi, is something wrong? Why don't you talk to me? I was talking to you the whole way and you ignored me. Did I do something to make you angry? Mirko saw how they were in front of his agency. She let go of the green-haired man's hand, saying, I'm fine. I was just thinking that the kiss we gave each other was a mistake, nothing more. Let's forget that ever happened. Izuku opened his eyes wide, saying, Because? I don't. Mirko, just forget it. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking at that moment. She turned her back on the green-haired man, saying, You must be happy. A girl practically confessed to you today. And on your next date he will tell you his feelings. I'm happy for you. You two would make a nice couple. After saying that, she entered the agency where Shia, upon seeing her, wanted to give her a hug, but she walked past with a sad look. Shia was surprised when she saw her and looked away, noticing the green-haired man entering. Izuku, Mirko-san, please wait. The rabbit did not stop and went up the stairs, saying, Sister, I'm going to sleep for a while. Please don't bother me. Those were the only words he said, and he headed to his room. When she arrived, she lay down on her bed looking at the ceiling while saying, What was I thinking there could be something between us? I have to be aware of the reality and accept the truth after all. Shia approached the green-haired man and asked him what had happened. Izuku just lowered his gaze, saying, Nothing happened, it was just a mistake. After saying that, he also went to his room. Shia worried about both of them. The hours passed until the afternoon came. The green-haired boy trained as always with Gran Torino. After finishing, he took a bath in the hallway and ran into Shia, who had a tender smile. 30 minutes had passed, and it was almost 8 o'clock at night. Mirko had just woken up, because the rabbit had fallen asleep. She got up and put on a towel to go take a bath. As she passed by Shia's room, she heard the green-haired man's voice in it. She stopped dead and moved closer to the door to hear better. She could clearly hear the green-haired man's voice saying, Shia-san, are you sure you want to do this? Shia, yes, I have to take it by the tip, right? Izuku, yes. Shia, this is my first time doing this. Forgive me if I'm not that good. Mirko, at first time? She said, blushing. Izuku, you're doing very well, Shia. Shia, this is tough, Izuku. Mirko, hard? Are they? Izuku, yes, I know, just relax, I'll help you do it right. Shia, please don't be abrupt though. After those words, Mirko could not hold back any longer and opened the door, saying, Stop doing inappropriate things. Izuku, huh? Shia, what are you talking about, sister? Mirko saw how they were sitting on the ground, on top of which there was a tower of rectangular sticks. Shia was holding the end of one while Izuku was grabbing her hand. Mirko, what are they doing? Shia, oh, you'll see. She grabbed a box showing the name of the game. Shia, I saw this game in a store and bought it to play with you, but since you were asleep I told Izuku to play with me. The game consists of each person removing a stick without knocking down the tower, and whoever knocks it down loses. This is my first time playing it, so Izuku-kun is helping me. Why did you say to stop doing perverted things? What did you think we were doing? She asked, confused. Izuku looked at her, and in his thoughts he would say, Shia-san, I really love your innocence. Mirko, oh, that's me. Izuku stood up, saying, Let's go prepare dinner, Shia-san. I'm sure Mirko will tell us to forget what happened a moment ago, for her forgetting is the best. Right, Mirko-san? The green-haired man said indifferently. Mirko opened his eyes slightly at those words. Izuku left the room. Shia stood up, saying, He seems angry. I don't know what happened between you two, but I don't like seeing you two like this. The brown-haired girl left the room, leaving Mirko alone with his head down. 40 minutes passed and the three of them were having dinner. Izuku and Shia were talking happily as always. The green-haired boy and Mirko had not spoken to each other. After dinner, the green-haired boy helped Shia with his things and then everyone went to sleep. It was almost midnight and Mirko couldn't sleep remembering Izuku's words. I'm sure Mirko will tell us to forget what happened a moment ago, for her forgetting is the best thing. The rabbit heard a knock on her door. She got up and when she opened it she found herself looking into the green-haired boy's emerald eyes, those eyes that undoubtedly attracted her and she liked. Izuku, do you really want to forget our first kiss? Mirko opened her eyes wide and was about to respond when she felt Izuku steal a warm kiss from her as he tenderly took her by the waist, holding her against his body. Mirko had a slight blush, and in his thoughts he would say, To whom I lie, I could never forget these feelings for you after all. I fell in love with you, Baka. Mirko wrapped her arms around the freckled boy's neck as they entered the bunny's room. Izuku closed the door and lifted her up from under her thighs. Mirko wrapped her legs around the freckled boy's waist. Izuku, without stopping kissing her, threw her onto the bed. They both separated from the kiss, leaving a trail of saliva, their faces very flushed. Mirko's I just want you to kiss my Baka alone. Because I like you, Izuku. Final chapter, Heart's Desire Part 2. After saying that, the rabbit once again joined her lips with the green-haired man in a warm and passionate kiss while she grabbed him by the neck, holding him firmly against her body. For Mirko there were no more doubts, she only wanted to be with him, and no one else. She didn't care if they accepted their relationship or not. She had already decided in that kiss that she only wanted to be Izuku's every day, every night, and every second. Yes, she had finally accepted her feelings for the freckled boy. Both separated from the other. Mirko turned around so she was on top of him. She lay down on the green-haired boy's chest with a warm smile on her face, and in a low voice she said, I love you. The green-haired man managed to hear those words and whispered in his left ear, I love you too, Rumi. Rumi blushed as much as she could at those words. She looked at the freckled boy who gave her a short but tender kiss. Rumi tenderly asked, Do you really love me? Izuku placed his hand on the rabbit's right cheek and with a warm smile replied, Yes, I really love you, Rumi. I want to be by your side. I want you to only be mine if you let me. Rumi placed her right hand on the green-haired boy's hand that was lying on her cheek, intertwining it with his, saying, Yes, I want to be only yours, Izuku. The rabbit was embarrassed to say something like that, as she never imagined she would say words like that to a boy. Izuku tenderly stroked her hair as he said, So, you thought me and Shia were having AR? Mirko, yes, well your comments indicated something else and I. The green-haired man just laughed saying, You were jealous. Mirko puffed out his cheeks tenderly saying, How could I not be if the person I love is in another girl's room and who knows what they're doing? Izuku gave her a tender kiss that was reciprocated by the rabbit. The kiss slowly went up a level. Mirko could feel the green-haired boy's tongue enter her mouth. She blushed but played along. They both again separated from the very heated kiss. Izuku, I want to do it only with my Rumi, he said while resting his forehead against hers. Those words made the rabbit happy and with a mischievous smile she would say, Then just make me yours, he said while he tenderly bit the freckled boy's lip. Izuku began to kiss her passionately while he slowly removed her clothes. Rumi also removed the green-haired man's clothes. Izuku passionately kissed the rabbit's neck, eliciting soft moans from her. Mirko was feeling a wave of pleasure running through his entire body, while his breathing was heavy. This would say, Izuku. Izuku, our Rumi. They melted into a passionate kiss as they gave themselves over to the wave of pleasure, while making love passionately. The hours passed until morning fell and we could see the couple tenderly embracing each other. Both were naked but with a smile on their faces. Their clothes were strewn all over the room. Mirko slept warmly on the freckled man's chest because they had had a long and passionate night, it being the first time for both of them. At 10 in the morning the three of them were having breakfast with the difference that Mirko and Izuku were sitting next to each other. Shia had a tired face. Mirko, why do you have that face, sister? Shia, it's your fault, sister. You spent the whole night screaming. Ha ha, slow down. You didn't let me sleep, why the hell were you yelling those things? Izuku choked on his breakfast after hearing Shia's statement, as did Mirko. The green-haired man in his thoughts would say, Damn Shia-san, you really are pure of heart and mind. Mirko was foolishly embarrassed by her sister's words. Shia, I don't understand how you could sleep. Izuku, didn't you hear her? Izuku started to cough a little. Mirko, why, you see, sister, Izuku and I. The rabbit stood up with Izuku, letting Shia see that they were holding hands in a tender grip. Shia saw them and opened her eyes wide. Mirko, he and I are in a relationship, and well, last night he and I high. Shia's face blushed beyond belief. She said embarrassedly. Don't say it, I already understood everything, but. She approached them and hugged them, shedding a few tears and saying, I'm really happy for you too. I'm glad you finally fell in love, sister. Mirko, doesn't our relationship bother you? Shia, why should I? You truly love each other and age doesn't matter. If you truly love each other, then age is just a number. She looked at Mirko saying, and the prison is just a sister room. Mirko, hey. Shia just laughed a little. This would say, I knew it, I knew you two would end up together and I wasn't wrong. I know they will be happy together. Izuku and Mirko hugged her saying, Thank you. The days passed and Mirko and Izuku spent time together. Gran Torino found out about their relationship and supported them at all times. The week had one day left to end. It was a Saturday afternoon, and Izuku was sitting in a water fountain with a somewhat sad look because that day he had to face Momo. The brunette and he would have a date that day. Momo was willing to finally tell the green-haired boy her feelings. When the brunette arrived, she gave him a warm hug, saying, You don't know how much I've waited for this day. The brunette didn't even let him speak. She took him by the hand and began to lead him to the north of the city where there was an amusement park. Izuku and Momo spent the whole afternoon riding every attraction they saw, having fun together. Momo had a beautiful smile on her face, and that was what hurt the green-haired boy the most. The last attraction they went on was the Ferris wheel because night had already fallen and Momo wanted to see the city from above. As Momo got on, she sat next to the green-haired man, resting her head on his shoulder as the wheel began to spin. Momo, with a slight blush, would say, I really had a lot of fun today, Izuku, thanks. Izuku, I. Momo looked him in the eyes saying, I like you, Izuku, please go out with me. Izuku put on a sad look as he watched the beautiful brunette waiting for an answer. Izuku, I'm sorry, Momo, I can't reciprocate your feelings. The brunette's eyes opened slightly and slowly crystallized. Izuku, I like someone else, in fact I'm dating that person. Momo lowered her head saying, Are you saying those things to make me jealous, right? She asked with a broken voice while little by little a few tears began to fall down her delicate cheeks. Izuku, no, I'm actually dating someone else, you already know them, Momo. Momo, look. It's Mirko-san, right? Izuku, yes, it's her. Momo had a lump in her throat and a pain in her chest, and she would say, Is it because I rejected you so many times? Izuku, ah no, whenever you told me that I saw it as something common between us. Momo, if I had told you my feelings before, would you have accepted me? Izuku, if it had been before I met Mirko-san, then yes. Momo, I see, so it was my fault for being indecisive with my feelings, she said through tears. Izuku hugged her to comfort her. Momo only clung to his arms tighter until she calmed down. The wheel was about to stop and the black-haired girl stood up saying, I guess it's too late for me now, but... The green-haired boy opened his eyes wide when he felt Momo's lips on his. Momo kissed him as if her life depended on that kiss. As they parted, Momo showed a forced smile, saying, At least I gave my first kiss to the person I love. Thank you for this day. The doors of the wheel opened and Momo ran out with some tears. The green-haired boy wanted to stop her, but when he stopped, the doors closed, causing him to stay trapped. Izuku, unable to catch up with Momo, returned to the agency where Mirko was waiting for him. Upon seeing him, the rabbit went and hugged him tenderly, saying, "How did you take it?" Izuku, "Not good at all." Mirko, "I'm really sorry, but you are mine and I don't share you with anyone else." After saying that, she gave him a warm kiss, and when they separated, Izuku would say, "This is our last day." Mirko, "I know, if I ever forget everything we went through, then remind me with kisses, okay? My memories will be erased, not my feelings," he said with a warm smile. Izuku hugged her tenderly, saying, "I really love you, Rumi." Rumi returned the hug, saying, "Me too." Shia told them from the stairs. "Couple of lovebirds come to dinner." Izuku and Rumi said, "Yeah." They both walked hand in hand. The next day Izuku woke up and left his room, and in the hallway he met an adult Rumi. Yes, she had returned to normal, which meant that her heart's wish had come true. Mirko, seeing the green-haired boy, raised an eyebrow and said, "Why are you staring at me so much, brat?" Izuku in his thoughts would say, "I guess he really forgot everything." Mirko, "Hurry up, we have to go running. You're not going to skip a workout," he said with a smile. She passed by. The green-haired girl saw her and smiled, saying, "Yes, ma'am." After a few minutes, Mirko and Izuku were on the first floor ready to go for a run. Shia was already aware of everything and notified the UA that Mirko had returned to normal. "Mirko, we'll be right back, sister." "Shia, I'll wait for you here, and don't do anything bad to Izuku." Mirko with a big smile would say, "I don't promise you anything." After saying that, they left and went to run where they always went, but this time Mirko was surprised to see how Izuku had beaten him in the race. "Mirko, well done, brat, you beat me. For having beaten me, I will give you a prize. Tell me, what do you want?" The freckled boy stood up and stood face to face with Rumi, making her blush slightly. "Izuku, I want you to be my girlfriend, Mirko-san. I love you and I want you and I to be a couple until our lives come to an end." Mirko opened his eyes wide, feeling his heart beat with happiness. Izuku approached her lips, saying, "If you still remember the beautiful moments we lived, you will let me kiss you." Mirko smiled slightly at these words and said, "If you knew, then you would have kissed me this morning, Baka." They both gave each other a warm kiss. Izuku held her against his body and Mirko wrapped her arms around the freckled boy's neck, making the kiss more passionate. As Izuku separated, he would say, "I love you, Rumi, you really make me happy, love." Rumi blushed, saying, "What did you call me?" "Izuku, I called you love. You don't like it?" Rumi gave him a short kiss on the lips, saying, "I love it, keep telling me that, my life." They both started walking hand in hand, now officially as a couple. "Izuku, love." "Mirko, yes?" "Izuku, the guy who made you a girl said that in order for you to return to normal you had to fulfill your heart's wish." "What was your wish?" Mirko, "That's a secret," he said with a warm smile. "Izuku, I see. You know, I was thinking about changing my attitude a little, well, something like that." "Mirko, I don't want to." "Izuku, huh?" Mirko looked at him, and with a beautiful smile he would say, "I don't want you to change, I love you just the way you are." "Mirko, love, can you hear me?" "Izuku, oh yeah, what's wrong?" "Mirko, you have to take Lena to school, honey." Izuku looked down at his little 6-year-old daughter, who gave him a hug, saying, "Dad, you were distracted, Mom was talking to you for a while." "What were you thinking?" Izuku with a slight smile replied, "I was remembering the past when I met your mother, she is still so beautiful, she has me in love until today and forever." Mirko blushed at those words. "Izuku and Sora?" "Lena went to school with Aunt Shia." "Izuku, why didn't you go with them?" "Lena, I want to go with Dad. After all, my dad is the symbol of peace, I feel protected if I go with you." Izuku picked her up in his arms, saying, "We'll be back, love." "Mirko, go to school with care and love." Izuku turned around looking at her. "Rumi, I still love you too and I always will." The rabbit gave her a warm hug.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Bye. Also check out my other video that has been shown in left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.